We are live.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise as you are able and join me in the welcoming of City Council and the playing of the national anthem and the reading of the invocation. Normally we begin our city council meeting listening to audio system is down when it comes to national anthem, so we're all going to have to sing. And if anybody has a great voice and you want to come up here and belt it out, we're going to have to do that. Kurt, why don't you lead us on? Oh, Canada. And free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. I can hit one note out of many. So if you please remain standing as I read the invocation. As we come together today, we recognize the great responsibilities laid upon us. Our council will always strive to understand the needs of the people we serve and to use power wisely and well. Our purpose is to establish and maintain a city of prosperity and righteousness where freedom prevails and where justice rules. Let us also not forget those who've served our community who are no longer with us so that we continue to do the work that we must in their memory. Please be seated. Okay. All right, we have a very full agenda this evening, but first we have some caretaking matters to take care of. So first of all, Mr. Clerk, can you please take the roll? Councillor Van Tilborg.
Present.
Councillor Carpenter.
Here.
Councillor Sless.
Present.
Councillor McCreary.
Here.
Councillor Sullivan.
Present.
Councillor Samwell.
Here.
Councillor Hunt.
Present.
Councillor Martin.
Here.
Councillor Caputo.
Present.
Councillor Sicoli.
Here.
And Mayor Davis.
Here. Members, does anybody have a conflict of interest they have to declare on any of the items that are on tonight's agenda? If so, please raise your hand. Seeing no raised hands, looks like we have no conflicts. So we'll now move into determining what items are going to be separated for discussion purposes. We already have the following items separated. 12.4.2, corporate and human resources policy updates because of an amendment that Councillor McCreary is going to propose. 12.5.2, which is a 2023 year-end operating budget surplus because there's a delegation. And 12.7.1, which has to do with Mount Pleasant Road. Understand we also have a delegation in respect to that matter. Are there any other matters contained within the reports that anybody wants separated for discussion purposes? I'll start to my left, Councillor Sicoli.
12.4.18.
That's the Heritage District. Okay. Councillor Caputo.
12.4.1.
The City Grants Program.
Yes.
Okay. That looks to be the matters that are going to be separated for discussion purposes. So, Councillor Martin, would you please move the motion to approve all items that have not been separated for discussion?
Thank you. I move seconded by Councillor McCurry that all items contained within the committee reports, items 12.1 to 12.7, not separated for discussion purposes, be approved.
All right, before we take the vote, Mr. Clerk, can you please read the title of all the items that we're voting on?
Yep, through the chair, the following items are subject to the vote. So from the Appointments Committee Report, 12.1.1, appointment of citizen members to a committee and a board, 12.1.2, appointment of liaison member to a committee. From Committee of the Whole Operations Report, 12.2.1, alternative transportation review, 12.2.2, asset management plan, non-core assets, 12.2.3, council approval of joint city county HSP event, 12.2.4, infiltration disconnection program, 12.2.5, private street bylaw updates, 12.2.6, Brantford Airport report, 12.2.7, support for the decision of the Ontario Energy Board to end the gas pipeline subsidy, 12.2.8, Sustainable Communities Award from the Social Services Committee report, 12.3.1, Homelessness Prevention Program Investment Plan, 12.3.2, Ontario Works Brantford Grant Annual Report, 12.3.3, 2023 Annual Report, update Brantford Grant Housing Stability Plan, 12.3.4, Asylum Seekers Impact to Municipal Social Services. From the Committee of the Whole Planning and Administration Report, 12.4.3, Portable Signs Extending Permit Days, 12.4.4, Airport Management Contract, 12.4.5, Release of 177 Colborne Street West, Commercial Space to Grand River Community Health Center, 12.4.6, DAP, Development Application Fees Review, Building Permit Fees, 12.4.7, Non-Routine Demolition Applications for 247, 253 West Street, 12.4.8, Downtown CIP Tax Increment Based Grant Application for 33 Erie Avenue, 12.4.9, Downtown Facade and Safety Improvement Grant Program Application, 12.4.10, Proposal to rename Longboat Run to Longboat Run East, 12.4.11, Safe Reporting Program Annual Update, 12.4.12, Mid-Year Council Priorities Update, 12.4.13, Sports Entertainment Center Update, 12.4.14, Human Resources Metrics Report, 12.4.15, Inclusive Community Plan 2023-2026 Annual Update, 12.4.16, honoring Rick Stern by adding Stern to the approved list of street names, 12.4.17, concerns regarding cell phone service in West Brant. From the Finance Committee reports, 12.5.1, 2023 Consolidated Financial Statements, 12.5.3, Resolution from Special and Camera City Council meeting held on April 30th, 2024 regarding sale of lands on Strickland Avenue to the Grand Erie District School Board, 12.5.4, Financing for Southwest Community Center and Park Projects, 12.5.5, Quarterly Reserve and Reserve Update, 12.5.6, Treasurer's Annual Report on Leasing Financing Agreement for 2023, 12.5.7, Treasurer's Investment Report for the 2023 year. From the Planning Committee report dated June 13th, 12.6.1, Zoning Bylaw Amendment PZ-09-24, 346 Charlotte Lane, 12.6.2, Draft Plan of Subdivision. And through the chair, that is it. All items not separated for discussion purposes carries on recorded votes. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillor Sullivan, Celeste McCreary, Hunt, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Carpenter, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. We have no statutory public hearings on tonight's agenda, but we do have two recognitions of achievement, one of which, well, all of which are quite special. So first of all, I'm going to be coming down to the microphone. Okay, I'll do without the microphone. We did previously this evening, as confirmed by the council meeting in May, that, well, what else? There we go. Nope, nope. Testing, there we go. Just like the Las Vegas floor show. So we do in this particular item, when it comes to a council meeting, if we have something very special, we do a recognition of achievement. And tonight it is something that is very special. We're recognizing the individual who was the first mayor of Brantford, when Brantford was a town. And his name is William Muirhead. And it's a very special occasion because we have with us tonight a direct descendant of William Muirhead. We have Ian Muirhead and his wife Trish, who've come to us from Vancouver. And in fact, it was Ian Muirhead who contacted me just out of the blue about 2 months ago to tell me that he has in his possession an oil portrait of our first mayor and also the first mayor's musket. And so we then decided that we would induct Mr. Muirhead into our wall of recognition, kind of like the City Hall Wall of Fame. And so it was with pride and reverence today that we honored the very first mayor of the city of Brantford, William Muirhead. He was a visionary, a leader, and a pioneer whose contributions have left an indelible mark on Brantford. He was born in 1802 in Niagara, and he settled in Brantford in 1825. On October 15th, 1830, William Muirhead purchased the first piece of the Brantford town plot property sold through public auction after the surrender by the Six Nations Haudenosaunee. This lot, known as Lot Number 8, consisted of 20,000 square links on the north side of Colburn Street. There he built a house called Oakwood, which became a cornerstone of the growing Brantford community. His leadership was quickly recognized by his peers. On September the 6th, 1847, the first town councillors were elected. There were 7 for 7 wards. And just a few days later at Bradley's Inn, William Muirhead was elected the first mayor of the town of Brantford by the other ward councillors, or aldermen at that time. His tenure, though brief, was very impactful. The first bylaw signed by Mayor Muirhead on September the 15th, 1847, addressed community concerns by preventing horses and swine from running at large and regulating the free movement of cattle during certain months, which that bylaw actually continues in force. So don't be thinking of having any horses or swine running at large. In addition to his political contributions, William Muirhead was instrumental in the economic development of Brantford. In the 1830s, he opened the town's first Bank of Montreal branch, and through his work in banking, he played a pivotal role in the financing of Brantford's earliest businesses, earning the respect and gratitude of the town's early business people. As we induct William Muirhead in the city's wall of recognition, let us remember the principles he stood for: dedication to public service and commitment to community. His life and work remind us of the importance of leadership and the profound difference one person can make in the shaping of a community. And I want to thank very much Mr. Ian Muirhead and his wife Trish for beginning the process that has led to your great-great-grandfather being inducted into our wall of recognition. And that is, you see to my left, what will appear in the wall of recognition. We also have the original oil portrait and musket, the original musket, that will just be displayed elsewhere in City Hall. And in recognition of Ian and Trish coming from Vancouver, donating those items to us, I'm very happy to provide you with a token of our appreciation and also a certificate confirming what it is you have contributed to our fine city. So come on up, and I'd like to present this to you and your wife. My longstanding interest in horses and swine has brought me here. But apart from that, we're just grateful that
my great-great-grandfather's portrait is in such great care. I'm sure you will take good care of him, and your successors will do the same for years and years to come. And we're just pleased to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vinny. We can acknowledge their contribution to our city. So the second recognition I'm not doing, but Councillor Sullivan is going to be doing it. It has to do with some environmental Green ER awards. And Councillor Sullivan is going to be awarding them because he is the council representative on the Environmental and Sustainability Policy Advisory Committee. Over to you, Councillor Sullivan.
Testing. There we go. So the Green ER Award presentation is something that's been in effect since 2013. The Environmental Sustainability Policy Advisory Committee has annually advertised, reviewed, and recommended recipients of the Green Environmental Recognition Awards, which have been presented annually at City Council meetings. The awards recognize individuals, families, businesses, and organizations in the city of Brantford who have demonstrated leadership in projects that resulted in measurable improvements in preservation, conservation, sustainability, education, advocacy, green infrastructure, or environmental cleanups and restoration. For 2024, we have two winners being presented with the awards. The first Environmental Recognition Award is being presented to a business that demonstrates a commitment to sustainability throughout its operations. The award recipient is a prominent figure in our community that advocates for environmental stewardship and leads for example. This recipient has made measurable improvements in sustainability by reducing energy, water consumption in their buildings, diverting waste from the landfill, utilizing green cleaning products, engaging with students and community in environmental actions, and improving the environmental health of Brantford by protecting honeybees. It is my honor to present the Green Environmental Recognition Award for Green Business to Wilfrid Laurier University, Brantford campus. And here to accept the award on behalf of Wilfrid Laurier University is Beth Gurney. Beth, would you please come up?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Councillor Sullivan. Thank you, Council, and thank you to the City of Brantford. On behalf of Wilfrid Laurier University, it's a pleasure and an honor to accept this. And I just want to call out the significant work of our sustainability team who do incredible work to have a real impact, and also to the members of city staff and various city committees who work closely with them in those efforts. It's appreciated, and collectively, we're making a bigger change together. Thank you.
Okay, on to the second Environmental Recognition Award. It's being presented to an individual who inspires youth to volunteer to help change the world. This award recipient demonstrates environmental commitment in helping her community by setting up a free pantry and a library where community members can go for free food, clothes, toys, and books. By providing a hub of needed items for free, this individual helps reduce waste being sent to the landfill and demonstrates the importance of circular economy. It is my honor to present the Green Environmental Recognition Award for the Young Environmental Champion, secondary age, to Brianna Leader. Congratulations, Brianna.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sullivan. If there's anybody else who is here in respect to the Green ER Awards, you don't have to stay for the whole complete meeting. But we do have a very busy agenda, so we're going to move on to proclamations, and we have one proclamation. Councillor Caputo, if you please move the proclamation, state your seconder, and then read the proclamation.
Absolutely, and with pleasure. It is the International Villages Cultural Week, moved by myself, seconded by my ward mate, Councillor Sluss. Whereas July 2024 marks the 50th anniversary of the International Villages Cultural Festival in Brantford. And whereas the Brantford International Villages Cultural Festival promotes diversity in the sharing of traditions through cultural displays, food, and entertainment. And whereas the Brantford International Villages draws visitors from outside the municipality while encouraging citizens of Brantford and area to participate in this unique multicultural experiences that instills excitement, awareness, education, and cultural pride. And whereas the goal for this year's International Villages Festival is to celebrate 50 years of bringing the world to your doorstep. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford hereby proclaims the July 3rd, 6th to the 6th, 2024 as International Villages Cultural Week in the City of Brantford.
Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Item 8.1 carries unanimously on a recorded vote with members of council voting in favor are as follows. Councillor Sullivan, Sluss, McCreary, Hunt, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Carpenter, Martin, Caputo, Sotoli, and Mayor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. We'll now move to the delegations portion of tonight's meeting. So we have 3 registered delegations for this evening. Prior to hearing from the delegations, I have to remind everyone of the rules we have in respect to delegations as set out in the city's procedural bylaw. And those rules are as follows. No person shall display any sign, banner, or placard in the meeting room other than materials that, in the opinion of the chair, are legitimate audio-visual aids necessary in connection with any presentation made to council. All persons present shall use polite and respectful language and shall refrain from the use of any language or the making of any gesture that is disrespectful or offensive. All persons addressing council shall speak only in the subject in debate and shall not speak on any other subject. No person shall applaud participants in debate or engage in conversation or behavior that may disrupt the proceedings of the meeting. As I said, we have 3 delegations. I'll call up the first delegation, which is from the Brant Community Healthcare System. David Deagle, the chair of the board of directors, Paul Emerson, who is the chair of the Redevelopment Properties Committee of the board, and Bonnie Cam, who is the president and CEO. So if you'd like to come up, select whichever side you'd like. You just have to press the red button. And committee members, I suspect this may take longer than 10 minutes. So feel free when the time comes, if you think it appropriate, to put a resolution on the floor.
Well, thank you. Mayor Davis, members of council, my name is Paul Emerson. I'm a board member, a past chair of the Brant Community Healthcare System. And we want to thank right off the bat, we want to thank you for the donation there or the money that's being put into a reserve fund, over $15 million by the city over the last 13 months to assist in the building of the new hospital when the time comes. And we also want to thank you for I guess we have an agreement in place for the parking lot and fire hall that is vitally needed for the redevelopment across the street. So thank you very much for that. I also want to say with me today is our newly appointed chair, Dave Deagle, a Brantford resident. Bonnie Cam, who's going to make our presentation. She's the president and CEO. And in the audience, there's Dr. Lee Ferrero. I don't know whether you raise your hands. He's the president of our foundation. Carrie Wilson, who's the executive director of the foundation. Alana Lukic, who's one of our vice presidents in charge of communications and strategy, things like that, quality. And also Tony Ade, who's in our communication department. So again, I'm gonna not say anything. Bonnie's gonna make the presentation, but I want to assure you that both the board of the Brant Community Healthcare System and the board of the foundation is committing to continue to work with the province to get support for our new hospital. So without further delay, I'm going to turn it over to Bonnie.
Thank you, Paul, and good evening, Mayor Davis and members of council. It is my privilege to be here today and to chat with you about the current status of our redevelopment projects across our hospitals, along with where we are in the process of this undertaking, and to talk about our continued collaboration on a go forward. As Paul mentioned, we do want to express our sincere appreciation for all that you've done to set aside funds proactively for our hospital as part of our hospital reserve fund, and as well in future to donate the parking lot as well as the fire hall that will very much be critical as part of our future success of this endeavor. So just as a reminder, our hospital is considered a large community hospital, 330 beds. We see over 80,000 emergency and urgent care visits across the two hospitals. And our vision is exceptional care, exceptional people. And this truly was exemplified back in November of 2023 when we attained the highest possible Accreditation Canada status for quality and standards in care. One of the first actually for BCHS, and we're very proud of that. However, our buildings are deteriorating. And we do have to address this urgently to ensure that we preserve acute care in our community and to come. So there's no question we're in a state of tremendous growth. And as you're aware, as part of BCH's catchment, we are closest to the most populous First Nations territory in Canada. And according to the Ministry of Finance's summer release of 2023, we are projected from 2022 to 2046 to have a almost 40% growth rate. And in the years from 2016 to 2022, we exceeded a 7.4% growth rate, surpassing both the provincial and national average. And as a result, it's no surprise that our hospital capacity has been well exceeded on all fronts. We've been in this process, as you're all aware, for some time, and we are following the Ministry of Health's process, and this is a complex one. I don't expect you to know this, but we are partway through our process. And at present, we have completed our stage 1.2, it's called, which has two components, and I'll speak to that shortly. And we're seeking agreement from the Ministry of Health on stage 1.2. And you will see we submitted that proposal back in October of 2023, and I will speak to some of those particulars. And we're in the process of working with the Ministry of Health on a slightly revised process based on some feedback, which I will discuss shortly. So as I mentioned, the stage 1.2 includes two parts. One, the program and services. So what are you intending to include as part of your facility as a new redeveloped hospital project? And part B, which is what is the facility structurally going to look like, in very simple terms. So we provided three options for Brantford General Hospital back in that October submission, along with two options for the Willett Hospital in Paris. So this is something at this stage to clarify for council that we have requested a greenfield site multiple times. You go back to 2010, and again, a greenfield site, just for clarification, is a new set aside site for a hospital. And through the Ministry of Health, we have been directed to not proceed in that direction. And in fact, that has been turned down 3 times in the past since 2010. And our planning grant we received in March of 2022 was very specific and requested that it included the redevelopment or reuse of existing infrastructure on the current Brantford General site. The new Greenfield site the Willett site may be a new Greenfield site. It's yet to be determined. That is one of the potential outcomes of the redevelopment there. And we are, once we get through 1.2, we'll be undertaking finalized programming for 1.3, and that will also finalize our site plans. So in terms of what we submitted back in October 2023, it was one single project, one single building that is 1.4 plus or minus million square feet. And it also included some post-construction demolition along with supports for operational adjacencies, meaning the ability to work across that space much more fulsomely, avoid delays with multiple approvals as one project would be submitted, and it would have a large main procurement as part of that package. So that was back from October. You'll see here that on the left side of your screen is a satellite image of the hospital today, and left to right is Terrence Hill in the middle there. The north of that is the parking lot, the fire hall and parking lot as well. And the south of that is the existing buildings. And so as you can see on the right, the intent would be the purple building as outlined there would be that one infrastructure. So on what they call a brownfield site on the parking lot as it sits today, with the parking, both surface as well as parking garage to the south side of Terrence Hill. For the Willett site, because this is a comprehensive plan, it will either be a redevelopment or a renovation of the existing site, including the urgent care along with ambulatory and approximately 80,000 square feet. So after having gone through that process, we did engage, it does require approval. So we've been engaging with the Ministry of Health, Ontario Health West, as well as Infrastructure Ontario. And essentially received quite a bit of feedback on that for both the Part A and the Part B. And as a result, the Part A, the program and services proposal is viewed as acceptable. In other words, the programs and services that we intend to have on a go forward has been accepted from a programming perspective, but the Part B, we received some feedback on, meaning the facility development plan as submitted, and that we would have to have an alternative approach to that. And here's why. So our understanding from Infrastructure Ontario and the Ministry of Health is that the construction industry related to large scale hospitals, meaning those over about 1.2 million square feet, are right now very limited, very limited ability to execute on those large projects because there's so many being undertaken right now across the province. And then the availability of those contractors that can build that large million square feet. And there's only approximately 2 that exist today. And then the shortages in resources, labor resources, materials, supply chain, and most significantly, the challenges that construction firms will have bonding a large project like that. So, in terms of cost, because this is something we get asked very often, it very much depends on the ministry's approval of which option is adopted, how it is packaged, as we discussed, and what that means. So it will be in the billions of dollars, but we're not in a position to speak to the particulars as it has to go out to part of an RFP. And so we really wouldn't be able to comment on the specifics on that. It is that the ministry will pay the majority of the cost, with 10% of the hard construction cost expected to be raised by the hospital. And then all of the furniture, fixtures and equipment, the FF&E, including technology, is 100% paid for by the hospital.
Bonnie, if you just take a break
Yes.
there. Does anybody want to extend? Councillor Secoli, what is your motion?
I'd like to put a motion that we extend an additional 10 minutes, seconded by Counselor Sullivan.
Any discussion? Please take the vote.
The motion to waive the rules to extend the presentation by 10 minutes carries unanimously on a recorded vote with the required two-thirds vote. Members of council vote in favor. Councilors Van Tilburg, Samuel Hunt, Carpenter, McCreary, Martin, Celeste, Caputo, Sullivan, Sokoli, Mayor Davis.
Thank you. Please continue.
Thank you. So as mentioned, the local share is really a key part of the next phase, not right now, in terms of the commitment and demonstrating our plan in order to meet that cost. And that it will evolve over time as the project approaches final close and we understand what those project costs are. So next steps is we are reviewing alternative facility plan. Our plan is to get the options finalized with the Ministry of Health Capital Branch and working collaboratively with them so that we can endeavor to get that finalized to them. And we're going to be looking at ensuring we comply with all of their limitations and requests on that and continue on our government relations and advocacy strategy, which is underway. We're continuing to work with the government on that. And our communication plan. So certainly that's a critical part of the next step with our board hospital along with the community and others. And, you know, our goal as part of this finalizing the Part B, stage 1.2, is to secure approval for this project in the Ontario's 2025 budget. And that is our focus and our goal on a go forward. And we're also requesting at this time a letter of support from the City of Brantford Council that endorses advancing this redevelopment project for redeveloped BCHS. And that be included as part of our August submission to the Ministry of Health. I do want to just highlight that, you know, we're very appreciative of the opportunity to come here today and discuss the status of where we are and that we look forward to continuing to work collaboratively as this will be, you know, a number of years that we have ahead of us to further this project. So thank you.
Great. Floor is open for questions. Councilor Sluss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome. You're looking for 2025 budget approval in the year 2025. Getting that, if you achieve your goal, when would construction be?
So our belief is that it would likely go out to procurement in 2029, shovels in the ground roughly late 2030, and then we're looking at having a ready and available hospital for 2035. So about 10 years after budget approval.
Okay, and then the local fundraising, when would that commence?
Well, I mean, I think we're ready for that to commence anytime. And that's key part of our communication plan and moving forward on this initiative. And it is something as part of the funds that you've put aside as part of that hospital reserve fund and community that demonstrates commitment to the ministry that this project, this community is behind this. And so it is exceedingly important.
Okay, and I guess the third most popular question I get asked, when are you going to open up Terrace Hill Street again?
Yeah, that's a good one. We anticipate that will be reopened in the fall as we reopen our emergency entrance on Terrace Hill and the redevelopment for that part of the project is complete.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Carpenter.
Thank you for coming. So what's your annual operating budget?
Approximately just exceeding 250 million.
Okay, now when you talk about the hospital annual reuse of infrastructure, what do they mean by that?
Yeah. So in the planning grant that was received back in March of 2022, they requested inclusion of towers B, C, and D. We have had an engineering consultant come in to do an evaluation of those existing towers and the ability to continue to use those as part of this plan. It's been demonstrated that B and C are beyond their useful life and are unable to be used, and the disposition of D is still to be determined.
So isn't the building of a hospital, the most important thing is how the hospital is going to work together, because the operating expenses is so much. And the design needs to be so that modern design gets to today's technology to make it work more effective.
Correct.
Okay, it is. Okay, so isn't the hospital on life support now physically?
Well, the hospital is continuing to operate under duress in some areas. From an infrastructure perspective, yes.
Don't get me wrong, you have some of the finest staff I've ever come across, so I don't want to, so the reuse of infrastructure. Now, when you talk about the 15 to 25% that the community had to come up with, the community doesn't have to come up with that first, do they? Province, what we're waiting for is the province to commit to a new hospital to our community.
So our understanding is we need to have a plan. That's what needs to be put in place, and a commitment from community that we're going to work collaboratively to support that local share.
But first, we need the commitment from the province that they'll actually pay their share.
That is getting into the budget of October 20, or on the Ontario provincial budget for 2025, yes.
So, and it's a conservative government. We have a conservative MPP, Will Boma. Is Will Boma involved in trying to lobby on our behalf to try and get this approved?
Yes, we work very closely with MPP Buma, and he was certainly critical in having our ED renovation approved, which is what we're undertaking now.
Yeah, and the renovations for the D-wing supply, right?
Pardon me?
And the D-wing supply, the D-wing, I understand that D-wing, the tunnel had collapsed.
So the D-wing, we have had a temporary remediation to support the tunnel that has unfortunately collapsed, yes. We're working to have that permanently remediated.
So would it help if the community itself we started our own campaign saying we want a new hospital now, get it done?
And that is part of our communication plan, is to work alongside with community. Yes,
So the community needs to speak up to the premier and say, let's get our hospital done.
I would say it wouldn't hurt.
Okay, now, the new hospital structure, it will also work in conjunction with what I think is a good thing, is the new area for the new, with the old Lynn, but the new health group where we're Brantford, Norfolk. Health
Yes, so the Brantford, Norfolk, Ontario Health Team, we're working very closely with, and we have talked to them about a letter as well in support of the redevelopment that
And
we're
this
undertaking.
redevelopment will be, and the health team will all work in conjunction, will they not?
We will work collaboratively with all partners, yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Curry.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome, folks. Good to see you. Are you aware of the 2025 budget the province of Ontario has set aside for development of hospitals in other communities?
We are aware of the 2024 budget that they have just announced back in March. There was 50 billion set aside for infrastructure projects across the province.
But there's no published set of cities that are about to receive new hospitals.
There is not, however, there are hospitals that have received planning grants that are in stages similar to where we are. But there is no notification as to who will be included or which hospitals for Ontario.
And to your knowledge, there's nothing under construction currently.
There's many hospitals under construction currently,
New hospitals.
many across the province.
That might be helpful if you could provide us with that information.
I have a map that can show you those that are under construction, those that have planning grants, et cetera.
Yeah, that'd be helpful in our letter of support, I'm sure. Now, do you have interest in the Brant County Health Unit property across the street?
Well, I would say there's been some preliminary conversations. I'm not really sure I'm the best person to comment on that at this time.
Yeah, just curious. Thank you again for coming today, and you'll advise us what you wish the letter to say from the mayor that will help our case. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Solo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for clarity purposes, you mentioned it during your presentation. The province is against a new location somewhere else in the city, correct?
We have been turned down 3 times on a greenfield or another location site for a brand new hospital, correct?
Okay, and our best case scenario right now, moving the ball forward, is to have a new facility open and running in 10 years, correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Right. Councillor Sikoli, I have you next, but did you want to make a motion to extend further so we can ask some questions?
I'll make a motion that we extend an additional 5 minutes.
A second on
Seconded
that?
by Counselor
Councillor
Caputo.
Samuel. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please take the vote on that.
Through the chair, I'm just having technical difficulties, so perhaps just raise of hands. Perfect, thank you. The motion carries.
Do I get to go now?
You do.
Thank you for coming out and explaining all of that. It's one of the most popular questions that we get up here. So my understanding is that it's important for us to demonstrate an ability to pay our portion to bolster our position with the province. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. And your opinion, is the city of Brantford demonstrating that so far?
Absolutely. I think, you know, the fact that you have a health hospital reserve fund and that you've been able to put aside 15+ million so far, it demonstrates tremendous support.
Perfect, but it's not just up to the city of Brantford, is it? We have a partner in this. So have you or will you be giving this similar presentation to the county of Brant?
We have already back in
Have
May.
already?
Yes,
Perfect. Were they receptive to that?
they were receptive. Absolutely. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming out. I got a couple of questions. So what is it we can do at the city to make sure we have a new hospital here as soon as possible? I mean, over 15 months, we put aside $15 million, which no other municipality in the area has done that yet. What signal does that send, and what more can we do to accelerate or see a new hospital, given that it's a provincial decision?
Absolutely. I think continuing to do what you are doing to demonstrate commitment through your funds set aside with the hospital reserve fund. And I would say we are working to pull together a group across the community as we look at how do we work with the province and bring leaders together to support and demonstrate the need for a new hospital in this community.
And when would the city be expected to actually contribute and transfer monies towards a new hospital build? Is that like 7 years from now, 8 years from now?
Right. So first of all, it actually happens at financial close, which is at the very end of the process. So when I mentioned it's 10 years from 2025, it'd be very close to that 10-year mark after 2025. So
Right.
financial close.
So the timeline for building our reserve and setting aside money is about 10 to 11 years.
Correct.
All right. And have you seen many other communities that have started to, where the municipalities actually started to do that, actually put money aside 11 years in advance of the actual demand?
Well, I can say that the cycle of build from initiation to completion, build completion is taking longer and longer. And so I couldn't comment on the length of time per se, but I know many hospitals who are in the same state of 1.2. That's probably around when the conversations begin. So not many have actually set aside funds before this stage.
And what puts in jeopardy a new hospital for our community? I assume one, it would be a municipality, an area municipality not wanting to contribute or not having a plan in place to contribute.
I think definitely if there is dissenting voices or there's organizations in the community that are not interested or deem it unnecessary to proceed, then it will create a message to the province that we're not a willing or collaborative partner, and therefore they may look to other jurisdictions to move forward a hospital.
Right. And what else can happen inside a community that can jeopardize, delay getting a new hospital?
Yeah, I think it is that dissension that's going to be key. And then, of course, coming together and providing that local support via letters, via, the financial contribution as well.
Right. So a community that's continued to be divided about whether it should be a greenfield or a hospital rebuilt in the same location, or a area municipality not wanting to contribute. Would you agree that puts in jeopardy the ability of our community to get a new hospital?
I would agree that if the community can't come together to support one vision for the hospital, one common vision, that will definitely put it in jeopardy.
All right. And my last question is to you, Mr. Emerson. You're a past CAO of the County of Brant. You're well involved in local politics. You've lived here all your life. What is your advice to the greater area, the greater region? What must we do to see a new hospital built within what appears to be a 10 to 11-year timeframe?
Well, I think the city of Brantford is a great lead. You're a great role model. I know, from what I understand from the county councilors, they're committed to doing it. There's a bit of a hiccup, but they're on side and we'll be putting money in there. We also will need to reach out to our First Nation partners.
And what about the community coming united and coming behind a vision that, well, the vision we heard tonight for the hospital?
Absolutely. And that's what we have to get on that collectively.
Okay, I think that hits 25 minutes. I want to thank you very much for coming out tonight. It's certainly one of the #1 important topics in the community, and hopefully you've answered a number of questions that many community members have about, frankly, one of the most important issues. Thank you very much. And if you wish, you can stay to see us actually make the decision to top up the hospitals, but you don't have to. You don't have to stay for that. So we'll now move to the second delegation, Callie Farrell would like to speak to us regarding the development application on Mount Pleasant Road. So you have to identify yourself, state your address, and then you'll have up to 10 minutes to make your presentation.
Good evening, esteemed member of council, staff, and guests. My name is Callie Farrell. I'm a resident at 373 Mount Pleasant Road, a 6th-generation Mount Pleasantite, currently residing in the Tutla Heights neighborhood. When I refer to Tutla Heights, I mean the homes along Mount Pleasant Road between Gilkinson and Conklin, Valley Estates, and Tutla Heights Road. I've actively participated in the block plan process over the past 3 years as a landowner along the boundary lands. I've canvassed our neighbors and thus represent hundreds of residents' voices advocating to preserve the integrity of our neighborhood. I've diligently attended 6 in-person and virtual meetings, consistently referencing Brantford's Urban Design Manual, our official plan, mission and vision statements, and the recent staff report from the June 20th planning meeting. What I'm proposing today aligns with the needs and desires of the developer, as they provided this solution after our conversations, has been approved by members of the Grand Erie District School Board and supported by council staff. Today, I bring forward a critical concern that was overlooked in last week's committee meeting regarding the approval of the proposed block plan. Specifically, I urge council to mandate the zoning of Block 74 as open space. This designation is essential to preserve a mature woodlot, which not only enhances the aesthetic and environmental quality of the block plan, but also provides safe access for existing Tutla Heights residents to reach the trail network, proposed school within the space, and other green spaces within the development. Currently, the nearest access point for residents along Mount Pleasant Road to the new development is via the collector road that you see bolded. It requires them to walk distances exceeding 1.2 kilometers in some spaces, and even more in other areas, amidst heavy traffic conditions that are increasingly unsafe, particularly for our families and elderly residents. The ongoing development in our area, including the closure of Tutla Heights Road and the addition of nearly 900 dwellings, amongst other projects, will exacerbate these safety concerns unless proactive measures like zoning for open space here are implemented. Preserving Block 74 as open space allows for hundreds of mature trees to be retained, providing a canopy that offers shade and offers natural landscape. Here you'll notice the canopy that it will provide along the pathway on the left and the open space on that grassy area going into the new development. The trees also protect residents' yards. If not modified, the trees in image right will be replaced with a wall of densely packed homes, a minimum of 4 units, upwards of 11, depending on the existing lot that they'll neighbor, at least 33 feet high. The tangible benefits of maintaining the trees include mitigating carbon emissions, improving air quality, creating a cooler environment that is vital during extreme weather events like we experienced last week. During my discussion with city staff, they suggested that I go and look at Walter Gretzky Park as an example of what's to come to our neighborhood. I'm sorry to say I was a little underwhelmed. This park was built over 12 years ago, adjacent to Walter Gretzky School, and does not feel welcome to average citizens as it feels like something that belongs to the school, as you can see the design abuts school buildings to the park. After 12 years, the trees are at most 12 feet high and provide very minimal shade to its residents, as you can see in the image. The trees that do have shade only provide enough for one resident, you can see him on the right, after all this time and growth. The average household generates 40 tons of CO2 emissions annually. It takes 40 mature trees to remove 1 ton of CO2 emissions. Even after 12 years, this park isn't removing CO2 for even one house. We have to do better at preserving mature trees. Phase 1 of this development has already seen the destruction of over 300 mature trees with the planned introduction of less than 200 immature trees in their place. This is far below the city's proposed tree reservation guidelines in the updated bylaw that was approved today. As an exercise, I took the temperature at Walter Gretzky Park and compared it to Woodlot 74 in Zone 74. There was a 5-degree difference between the two. Zoning Block 74 as open space is a proactive approach that supports long-term sustainable growth and neighborhood cohesion while maintaining a mature tree canopy, which can help offset carbon emissions. It aligns with good urban design principles, enhancing safety and accessibility for residents, allowing access to schools, other green spaces, the trail networks, while allowing pedestrians to avoid walking long stretches along Mount Pleasant Road. It removes the cul-de-sac design that encloses neighboring properties with houses towering a minimum of 33 feet high, close to their property lines, ultimately creating walls around their homes. The cul-de-sac is an outdated and ineffective design option for a plan of this density. This particular layout is actually unprecedented in our city, where traditional cul-de-sacs typically maintain a balanced backyard to backyard ratio, or they'll back onto green spaces, unlike the current proposal. Through our collaborative efforts during the block plan process, we've already secured modifications from the developer, Cache, which were supported by the Grand Erie District School Board and some council staff that are here tonight. However, these crucial adjustments were omitted from the final draft plan presented last week. Tonight, we have an opportunity to rectify the oversight and ensure that the block plan sets a precedent for thoughtful urban development that prioritizes community well-being and environmental stewardship. You are tasked with finalizing the approval of the first ever block plan in Brantford's history. It'll set precedents for the 6 block plans that are in our city's future. As Councillor Sicoli mentioned last week, there were and still are opportunities for learning and improvement in this process. I understand many of the choices made in the plan are a result of the pressures the city has from the province in regards to building homes. But this plan's being considered at 50,000 feet and fails to consider our residents at the ground level. You are the last opportunity to get a piece of this right for the existing residents within Tutla Heights, many of whom lived here for decades and contributed significantly to our city's economic wealth and culture, some of whom Mayor Davis mentioned in his opening address. Thank you for your time and consideration. I ask you to make this crucial amendment in alignment with our shared values and commitments to safety for sustainable urban development.
Questions, Councillor Sicoli and Councillor Hunt.
Hi, Callie. Have you spoke with the developer yet about retaining a buffer of woodlot between your house and the new property that will go in there?
That was the initial request back 3 years ago, preferably along the whole stretch of existing homes along Mount Pleasant Road, and that was denied.
Denied? Okay, I think another conversation on that is worthwhile. I think I had a different conversation, but block 74 is your backyard, right?
And other residents too.
And a few other, but mostly your backyard. And you said you spoke to hundreds of people. So hundreds of people would like us to move the park to your backyard?
Hundreds of people wanted significant modifications made to the block plan, but those were not.
Just to be clear,
Yeah.
hundreds of people.
Yeah.
Are you, you're aware that we've already over dedicated park space?
Mhm.
And that creating additional park space or relocating park space could result in some additional funding required by the city to compensate for over dedication.
So the green space that would be, or open space that would be zoned there would be allocated from another area. Looking at the fiscal report, you have an over allocation of dollars, from tax dollars that this area is going to generate. So some of those costs can be offset. And last week, Cache didn't seem to be in favor of charging back to the city for those excess lands.
So, okay, so I did send you an email back and suggested a few dates to meet because I do think we have a solution for you. And that solution would not require an amendment of any sort here today. So I do encourage you to reply to that email. We can probably put something together that'll create that buffer for you with treed lot there. So I would encourage you to do that, but just so you know, I will be supporting this moving forward as presented because I do think that we have a solution for you and it's your mom, right?
Mhm.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I wanted to speak today because those times were after today's meeting. Yeah.
Counselor Hunt.
Callie, thanks for coming and not being a member of the planning committee. Today is the first time that I've actually seen that. But in your presentation, you indicated that the developer was actually one of the people who did suggest that that could remain open space.
Mhm.
And yet it's come to us not as open space. So was there some kind of discussion that happened with the developer and then what got submitted is not like what the discussion outlined?
So I think there were a couple areas of miscommunication. We met with the developer in November of 2023, and that's when the initial modification was proposed. And my understanding is that it went to the school board and it was one of the versions that they approved. There was 3 that they received. 1 they did not approve and the 2 others they were fine with. But the miscommunication, I'm not quite sure where else that happened.
So
Sorry to intervene, but we've just gone slightly beyond 10 minutes. I need a resolution to extend. Moved by Counselor Sullivan. And how much are you moving that it be extended by?
I think we should go another 5 minutes.
Is there a seconder on that? Second by Counselor Samuel. Any discussion? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
The extension of 5 minutes carries unanimously on a recorded vote with the required 2/3 votes. Members of council vote in favor. Councillors Van Tilburg, Samuel Hunt, Carpenter, McCreary, Martin, Sluss, Caputo, Sullivan, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
Continue, Counselor.
again, so I'm trying to understand how there was a proposal that it sounds like the developer was fine with to leave block 74 as open space. And yet we're now faced with, it looks like they're building, I think I saw on your slide 4 to 10 homes on that space. So I guess my question to you is, you're not, doesn't sound like aware of exactly where that happened.
No.
So I'm gonna save the rest of my questions then for staff when this actually comes up on the agenda, but thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Councilor McCreary.
Mayor, thank you. Welcome. It would seem that the developer plans a cul-de-sac there because the depth of 2 or 3 or 4 lots is significantly less than the back lot line of the other properties. Is there any historic reason why those lot lines are offset?
It's how it was severed. That's my understanding.
How, what was severed?
that land. Because that's a parcel of another landowner's property.
The land that your residents and your neighbors are on currently.
The land where the cul-de-sac is. Sorry, I don't.
The reason you're before us today is
Yeah.
because the developer has a cul-de-sac planned for your, behind your property and 2 or 3 of your neighbors, correct?
That's part of it, and the lack of access for existing residents along Mount Pleasant Road into that new subdivision where there will be a school and other green space.
So my question is, do you have any idea of why the lot was offset from the back property line?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Don't see any other questions. We're going to try and deal with this as one of the first 1 or 2 items when we begin discussion and debate.
Okay.
So please stay tuned. Please feel free to remain present in the chamber,
Thank
and we'll
you.
get to it as soon as we can.
Thank you.
All right, so we have one more delegation. I believe Tammy Smith, who would like to speak to us regarding the resolution regarding the sale of market rent homes owned by the city of Brantford, disposition of land strategy. So Tammy, please come up. If you could please identify yourself, provide us with your address, and just have to push the button on the microphone.
There we go. Can you hear me?
There, yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'm Tammy Smith. I live at.
Tammy, feel free to sit if you'd like, or
Okay.
stand, whatever is most
I'll
comfortable. for you.
sit because I need to speak with you. I'm Tammy Smith. I'm from Glenwood Drive, one of the houses that are being sold to build apartment building. I'm here to speak for most of us that live in the area. And we want the decision reversed as we've been living there for many, many years, ever since 2 years up to 40 years. A lot of people can't afford to go on their own out of this house because we've done upgrades and everything to the home. And a lot of people are looking at being homeless. So we want the decision reversed and we want to be able to stay in our homes. And I speak from a bunch of us. Now, this decision back in December 2023 was not even they didn't even notify us that this was a meeting taking place on our homes. So I want to know why. Why were we not notified?
This is the stage of the meeting where you provide your input and you delegate to us.
Okay.
And then later when we have the debate and discussion, there can be various questions asked and statements made.
Well, these.
But so what we want to do at this stage of the meeting is hear from you and what your concerns are and what input you'd like to provide in respect to the decision tonight, that of yourself and your neighbors.
Well, my neighbors and I would like to stay in our homes as we got families, children. There's elderly people that are living in those homes and we've been there for many years and we've done a lot of upgrades to our homes. Like, there's going to be a lot of people homeless from this decision if it goes through. Definitely.
All right, so I'm going to open the floor to members of council may want to ask some questions.
Sure.
Okay, so we'll see.
And did you get my, I guess they call it a correspondence now with my petition, it was originally supposed to be a petition.
Yes, we received several emails and we did receive, you sent it in today, I believe.
Yes.
And that was distributed to members of council.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
The clerk does that whenever he receives that kind of material.
Okay.
So, questions? Councilor Carpenter.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. The reason we didn't notify you is because we weren't allowed to. The decision was made in camera. And we're sworn by secrecy in camera
But if it was-
not to raise this issue. And it was originally raised June 14th, 2022. And it was turned down by the committee then. Then it came back April 2023.
Mhm.
And what we recommended at that time was that we not move you out of your homes until such time as you move yourself out of your homes, and then we sold the houses. Would that make more sense to you?
No, it doesn't make sense because housing has not put it that way.
No, I know, the current, that's not how it is now. How it is now, that was reversed at an in-camera meeting, and that was taken out. So with, your concern, is your concern that you've got a lot, there's a lot of people that there a lot of years. And that, you know, some of them paying $1,200, $1,100 a month rent.
That's correct.
And if they have to move out, they're gonna be paying $2,500, $3,000 a month
Right.
rent, and
And there's
they can't
very-
afford it.
There's actually people that are very sick that are bedridden.
Yeah.
Like the whole neighborhood's just uproared, sad, depressed, crying. We don't know where we're going. We have no clue where we're going, myself too.
And there's been no public meeting to get you together to talk about it collectively.
Somebody has,
Yeah.
put something together for July 2nd.
Counselor Hunt and I and Counselor Van Tilburg and Counselor Samuel have done that, yes. So would you like this item at the very least deferred so we could have a meeting? Talk about these issues?
What's
Would you like this decision to be delayed at the very least so we can have a discussion with the neighbors about this issue?
delayed at least until we come to a resolution, all of us as a neighborhood, like even the homeowners are upset.
Yeah, and
Because
you,
we're not just a community, we look out for each other.
yeah, and you've been putting,
Family, we're all together and we've been there so many years. Like
And
I
you-
will have to rehome my pets.
and you have, you put upgrades to the houses yourself,
Yes, we,
most of the neighbors?
yeah, yeah,
And you've spoken to most of your neighbors?
yeah, they're.
Most of them are here? Please raise your hands.
Most of
Okay,
them are here.
thank you, thank you. Thank you. We'll be speaking to this earlier, and I have amendment to move forward, so to delay this.
Yes, please.
Thank you. And the reason we couldn't speak to you is because we're prohibited from speaking to you, but staff, we're not.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Councilor Martin.
Thank you. It was my understanding that the homes would be offered for sale to the people that are living in them now. Were you offered a chance to buy your house?
We were bought, but if we were to buy a house, why wouldn't we have bought one by now? We can't afford that.
Okay.
With the-
My understanding is some of the people are buying the homes though.
Some are, but a lot of
Okay.
us aren't, because we just can't afford it. We cannot afford it.
Okay. And it's my understanding that some of the people in those homes have already found alternative locations.
No.
No?
not
Okay.
at all. No,
Okay.
no.
And my final question is why are you and your neighbors entitled to subsidized rent from the rest of the taxpayers?
Subsidized rent, it's market rent.
Well, it's supposed to be, but the rent you're actually paying is below market. That's why you can't afford to move.
Well, it was priced out when we moved in. So that's what the market rent was going for at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Curry.
Thank you for coming.
Thank
you. You wouldn't have any problem with us selling a house when someone has left it? Moved out or gone to an
Well,
old
if-
age home?
If they're going to move,
Yeah.
they're being forced to move. They
Exactly.
don't want to be moved, they don't want to move on their own. We are being forced to do this.
Yeah, so if we were to sell a vacant house, you'd have no issue with that, right?
No, just as long as the people that are living in the homes, we can stay in our homes, you know, they're homes. I've been there for 15 years.
Yeah.
My neighbors have been there for 25 years. He's put decks on the front, decks on the back. We're all family. We
And
are.
I think I heard you say that you liked Counselor Carpenter's suggestion that we defer this decision for some time to allow the ward councilors to meet with the folks in the neighborhood so we can hear feedback from folks as a group.
Exactly. That would be greatly appreciated.
Okay,
You know,
thank you very
rather than
much.
saying you gotta be out in 60 days.
Exactly. Okay, thanks, folks.
Councilor Hunt.
Tammy, thank you for coming and speaking on behalf of your neighbors. It's my understanding that this information was delivered to all of your homes the first week of June. And at that point, I know I fielded several calls that even I didn't have enough information to be able to answer the questions. So since that time, can you tell us how much interaction you've had with city officials in terms of
Every day.
every day you have?
Every day, even Doug Ford's office, every day. I've emailed Doug Ford's office regarding this. I've emailed the mayor himself. I'm doing everything I can to fight this.
Yeah, no, I'm referring to city staff reaching out to help, to assist you.
No, not real. No, I haven't had any help. No,
Okay,
no, there's
Thank
been
you.
no help for us. Mandy? Can Mandy speak for a minute?
Yeah, I'm sorry, we try to be as cooperative as possible, but we do have rules. And so because Tammy has registered, she has her 10 minutes right now. And if somebody else would like to speak, they would have to approach us and say, and seek special permission from the council. But just our rules, they apply to everybody that way. But Tammy, we need to, you have some time left, about 2 minutes in your 10 minutes.
Okay, I just wish
Um,
you guys would delay this decision, you know, and let us come to an agreement at least.
Correct.
You know, we didn't get any agreement. You're gonna be out in 60 days. I hope you find another place. Like, I got a paper with my neighbor's name on it with my address on it. That's how much caring went into this.
I think your message, Tammy's got through loud and clear. And we did receive your petition, so all members of council have seen that, along with the other material that some others of your neighbors have filed.
Yes,
Okay?
okay.
Oh, did you have a question, Councilor? Okay. All right, so Tammy, if you don't mind taking a seat in the area of the audience. Is there anybody else who wants to speak? Now, I'll have to tell you, we've got to get special permission from council to do that, okay? Well, first of all, if you could tell us, why don't you come up and tell us your name?
Yeah, I live at 10 Glenwood Drive.
All right, and so you'd like to speak to this matter. Well, first of all, let me find out if there's an appetite on the part of our council, okay? So does anybody? Yes, Councilor Carpenter.
Yes, I move that we allow her to speak on the procedural rule change.
All right, and that's seconded by Councilor Sluss. And just so you know, it requires a 2/3 vote because it's a deviation of rule. So we'll see what council thinks, okay? Clerk?
The motion to waive the rules carries on your recorded vote of 10-0. Members of council voting in favor, Councilor Van Tilburg, Samuel Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin, Celeste, Caputo, Sullivan, and Mayor Davis.
So you've got the green light to go. So if you could start, then you have 10 minutes and you have to tell us again your name, your address, and then you can make your presentation.
Amanda Van Every, 10.
Glenwood.
You got me nervous.
Yeah,
10 Glenwood Drive.
yep. And you can sit down if you like, if you feel more comfortable.
I would like to answer your question. I have talked to.
Amanda, can you speak into the microphone so that people watching, see that microphone, the one that has a red light on it?
Yeah.
Can you bring that to you?
Okay, is that better?
Yeah, much better.
Okay, I have talked to many of the people that you've given us names to talk to that are supposed to help us. I have gotten shot down from every request that I have asked for. I've asked for more time. They said they don't know if they can do that. I asked for rent to own. They said that wasn't possible. They said that they would rehouse us, but yet there's no housing. I have a gentleman that is in a wheelchair just about. They said that they didn't know if they could find him a home before they sold the house. So he would be homeless. I asked if we went on this list for another housing, if we were allowed to see it. We were told no. You have to go to a house sight unseen with no pictures. This is not the city helping us in any way.
So, Amanda, is there anything else you'd like to say before I ask if council members have any questions for you?
There's a lot.
Okay.
Just everything in the paper that the city has been printing out is incorrect. Everything that is going to the public is not what we're being told. The city's saying that we have 2 to 3 years until they're being sold, but yet we get a month to tell them if we're moving out or can buy it. And it's not plausible. And we also got told that the rent that we paid throughout the years would come off the price when they did finally sell it. Now, that's not even a question. We were told no.
Okay. Well, Manny, we'll see if the council members have some questions for you. So, Council Carpenter.
And thanks for coming. I'm sorry you're going through this. So what you're saying is that you've been given 30 days to make a decision
Yes,
and without having any further information or any discussion with your ward councillors?
yes.
So would you be also amenable if we delayed this and had a ward meeting, had some discussion about what can be done and what can't be done and options?
I think it would be reasonable.
And so you'd be able to attend that meeting that I think Linda.
Yes.
The ward,
Yeah.
four members of council put together. Thanks, sir, for coming here. I know it's not easy. Thank you very much.
It's not easy. You're gonna make me cry.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
Well, Amanda, thanks for coming out. Sorry, my voice is shot. You and Tammy, I know that the neighborhood's tight. I can't see from my venue. How many of you are here tonight in the chairs?
We got 3 rows and 1 on a walker.
You're still a tight neighborhood.
Yes, we're
so-
family, she said.
Yeah, I know that. So I did hear that you're amenable. Do you know if the others that are in those chairs, do you know if the majority of them will be able to make the dates that we've set aside?
You can't make July 3rd, 2nd? They're saying no, but technically, we should have been asked what date we could be
We
there.
were trying to move fast before the date of the 3rd, which is your deadline of July 3rd. So we wanted to get in there before that. We
Yeah.
may be flexible. That's why I'm asking you that question. Because we do want to have the largest audience, and I would love to have enough time to have my voice back.
Well, we could get back to you as a group if you gave us time to talk.
No, that's fine. I'm just trying to state that we want to try and meet with the largest in numbers of you.
Yeah,
All right.
that's the first thing you guys have done.
So, Amanda, we might have a few more questions for you. In fact, I know we do. Councillor Martin and then Councillor Hunt.
Thank you. When you rented your house, was it explained to you that it was purchased for the development of the BSAR and that you might be asked to vacate so that the road went forward?
Yes, but we weren't told that we were gonna be given 30 days.
Okay, but you knew that
It was a
there was a chance,
it was
yeah.
a possibility,
Yeah,
yes.
okay, thank you.
Councillor Hunt.
Thanks for coming, Amanda. And again, I'm going to apologize to everyone here and those who aren't here. So the meeting that the Ward 4 and 5 councillors have planned for next Tuesday was because it's not a city staff meeting. It's a meeting for the residents to come and tell us their concerns, because we understand that not everyone has the same information, and even us as the 4 councillors in the affected area didn't even have the same information. So I just wanted to be sure that the group understood that the meeting happening on the 2nd is not a city staff meeting, and it is not a meeting for you to have to make a decision. It's for us to hear your concerns. Are you clear on that?
I am, but everybody would like to be there.
Okay.
So if it was coordinated with everybody, just so.
We're not asking you to come and make a decision. We realize that there is a
Well,
date.
we know we don't have to make a decision, but we'd all like to tell you our piece kind of thing.
And that's what July 2nd is for. So I believe the notification that you've given is that you have to make a decision by July 3rd.
Yeah.
And that is the reason that we are trying to get everyone
Oh, that
together.
date's absurd.
Oh.
So if I can have, this is, if you have any further questions, Councillor Hunt?
No, I just wanted to make sure that Amanda was clear on that.
Thank you.
Okay, so Councillor Scully, I understand you have. Yes.
I do have some questions. Because what I'm hearing you say doesn't align with what my understanding is. So 30 days notice, you keep referring to this 30 days.
Yeah,
30 days for what?
we got 30 days to decide if we're going to try and buy it or if
Yeah.
we're moving.
And if you were taking active steps to attempt to purchase the house, are you of the opinion that our staff would not extend a little bit more time for you to get those
We were
ducks
not
in a
given
row?
a time period. We keep asking for more time, but nobody has an answer for us.
Okay, so I do feel, from what I know our housing staff is some of the most compassionate individuals we ever have, that they would, if you were actively taking steps to pursue a purchase, that,
But what about the people that can't afford to buy it and have nowhere to go?
what's your familiarity with the Residential Tenancy Act?
Not very well, just from what my neighbors are telling me.
So if this property was owned by an individual and anybody, where would you have gone if they had come to you and said, we're going to sell the house? Because at that point, they wouldn't even have to give anybody any notice. At this point, you're getting 30 days to decide to buy, and then it'll be listed, from my understanding. And please confirm if this is your understanding. 30 days to decide if you want to buy, and then you'll be given notice that it's going to be listed. And then it's going to take some time to sell. And then it's the new buyer who would determine whether or not they needed vacant possession.
Yeah, to make you guys look good, right?
And that's the law. That's the Residential Tenancies Act. I want to make sure that, is that your understanding of the process? Because it's mine.
It is, but like, you guys are talking like we haven't been there for 40+ years. Like,
How long have you been there?
I've been there 15, my husband's been there 30.
Were you the original owner?
No. 36 years.
All right, I'm gonna have to.
That's great. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. I understand that members of the audience, you're here to provide us with your opinion and that you're upset, and I understand that. But we do have a procedure we follow here at the city council meeting in particular. So I'm going to thank you, Amanda, for taking the time to come forward and make your presentation. Again,
Thank you for letting me speak.
I think your message got through loud and clear and said
Thank you.
very clearly. All right, so I'm going to move on then so that concludes the delegation portion. And I'm going to ask members of council if you have any objection to if we deal with, I think, the two matters where we've had delegates that are here in council. And thus, I think we should deal with those items first. I suggest we deal with the Mount Pleasant Road first, and then we'll deal with the resolution with respect to the sale of market rent homes second. And unless anybody objects, that's the procedure I'm going to follow.
The
Do you object?
hospital one as well?
We'll then follow that in the normal procedure.
Mayor, may I suggest we deal with this one first? We have a lot of people here that don't need to wait around for us to do other.
You know, I'm content with that. I'm fine if members of council are fine with that. Seems like that's a consensus, so let's do it that way. So what I need to get this on the floor for discussion is I need a mover and a seconder for the resolution. So moved by Councillor Sullivan, seconded by, yeah, it's right up here on the, well, if I have Councillor Sullivan, if you could please read it, please, as this is not part of the general consent agenda.
No problem. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Secoli, that the manager of real estate services or delegate be delegated authority to proceed with the disposition strategy identified through the in-camera report 2023-30, being that market rent homes owned by the city of Brantford disposition of land strategy, and to execute any and all necessary to affect the disposition strategy, including without limitation to the market, list, and sell the lands. And B, that the clerk be directed to present the applicable sales by law to council to affect the sale of the properties identified in clause A above.
Councillor Secoli, you're seconding that? Okay, so it's on the floor for discussion. I'll go Councillor McCurry, then Councillor Sluss, and then whoever else raises their hands after that.
Mayor, in the interest of time, I believe Councillor Carpenter has a deferral. And I would yield the floor to him to do that now.
As chair, I'm not going to allow that at this time. I think I'd like to hear first. If there's anybody that wants to speak first, I think they should be entitled to do that. So Councillor Sluss, you raised your hand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've heard one side of a conversation. I haven't heard the other side. I wonder if staff could respond. It seems draconian what we're doing if that has been portrayed to us accurately. So is my understanding the time frame seemed very, very tight. I'm not sure what happens if somebody doesn't want to buy it. How long do they have? I heard you have 30 days if you're going to buy it. How long do you have if you're not going to buy it?
Through the chair, Ray Petro, manager of real estate. We don't have an exact time right now. I did my absolute best when I had an opportunity to visit all the tenants at the properties, and I recognize a lot of faces here. If anyone had reached out to me to get an idea of what their home was worth, I've been there. There's one gentleman who can only do evenings, and he's the only one I haven't been able to meet. In terms of timelines, the July 3rd date was a date we were looking to have potential purchasers let us know that there's a chance. And I've made that clear to, I thought I made that clear to everybody, and if I haven't, I apologize. If July 3rd comes and goes and you're not 100% sure you can purchase, but there's a chance, let me know and we will work with the timeline. So that was the message that I tried to pass on to people. In the event that a home can't be purchased by the existing tenant, I don't have an exact answer as of when, but what I do know is the following. When the property has been determined by staff that it's going to hit the market, notice will be given to the tenant. The property goes on the market and there's a specific time it takes to sell a property. I can't forecast exactly how long that is, but on average right now it's 45 days. So that home would be on the market for 45 days. And once the city were to accept a firm and binding offer, the legal obligation is 60 days closing. We're offering a minimum of 120. So we're looking at a minimum of 150 days notice for any potential tenants to have to vacate the property. And furthermore, that's if the purchaser is looking for vacant possession. Vacant possession is highly likely, but not guaranteed. And that's the only opportunity where the city would ask for vacant possession. Right now, the plan is to only list 1 or 2 properties at a time. And that may be where some miscommunication is. That process could take 2 to 3 years to happen. But the goal is to list 1 to 2 properties at a time.
Okay, was what you're telling me, Mr. Petro, was that relayed on to the neighborhood?
So through the chair, that was verbally relayed to anyone that I had an opportunity to meet with personally and discuss the valuation of their home. I can't speak to the other neighbors who haven't reached out yet.
Okay, and for those that are asking for assistance in relocating, I heard one gentleman that has mobility issues was told that probably can't help him. That doesn't sound like something our staff would say, but I'd like to hear what staff, maybe they did say that, I don't know.
Through the chair, good evening, Mary Musson, Director of Housing and Homelessness Services. Oh, what I can tell you is that we have housing stability workers who are working very closely with those households that have indicated their willingness to work with us. So we have quite a few households that have already completed and submitted applications to other market rent homes. And for those who have been open to undergoing a financial assessment, if they're eligible, they have submitted rent geared to income applications. Housing stability workers try to reach out weekly. However, unfortunately, some households have declined services or have told us that they're not interested in working with our staff. At this point, those households are not being supported, but we are going to be reaching out to them once again, once the decision is made to sell their property.
Okay, and if I could, one more, Mr. Mayor. I think the proposal is to build multi-unit buildings in place of where we have single families now. Is that, am I remember that correctly?
Through the chair, no, that is not fully correct. The proceeds from the sales of these single dwelling homes will be put into the reserve so that we can build more affordable housing. That is densification, but these single dwelling homes are not where we will be building. We are selling these properties.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Hunt.
Thank you. And through you to Mary, Where on the affordable housing wait list will these tenants end up? Like at the bottom, at the top?
So through the chair, that is dependent on which wait list they're applying to. For the market rent wait list, we are able to work very closely with each household, and we are actually holding market rent units right now that are being vacated so that we can match households to market rent units if that is where they're choosing to move. For the rent geared to income centralized housing wait list, the rules governing placement on the wait list are actually under the Housing Services Act, which is provincial legislation that we cannot circumvent. So anyone applying to the rent geared to income wait list would have to wait in chronological order. However, housing staff are working with anyone who's open to it to come up with suitable housing plans. So that would be even taking into account if they're not able to move into municipally owned housing, but into the private market.
Okay. Further to that, so my understanding is these packages went out, some of them with errors, unfortunately, the first week of June. And am I correct in understanding that there was a please make a decision date of July the 3rd?
Through the chair, there was no please make a decision date. As the manager of real estate has mentioned, we ask that households consider and let us know within 30 days whether or not they intend to try and purchase the property.
Okay, so within 30 days, so the July 3rd date is, and I'm asking because that's the date that I've been told that they were given to make a decision.
Through the chair, yes, we ask that by July 3rd, they answer whether or not they are interested in trying to purchase the property.
Okay.
Councillor Scully.
Yes, thank you. I'm assuming our staff are operating under the appropriate governing laws of the Residential Tenancy Act. And we're not doing anything that the landlord tenant tribunal would frown upon.
Through the chair, no, we are definitely acting under the Residential Tenancies Act, and we are being more generous than the act actually requires us to be.
I'm quite familiar personally with that act, so I know that you are, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody realizes that we do have some incredibly compassionate staff on the other end here that are doing everything that they can, and I know that they are. This is hard, but here we have 20 odd houses that we owned for one reason and one reason only, and it was for a highway, and we no longer need these homes. So I will be supporting this moving forward tonight. I'm going to be supporting it without any deferrals or amendments, because in fairness, because unless I could offer the same rent subsidy to all the hardworking individuals in Brantford who are struggling to pay market value rent, myself included as a single mother trying to pay $2,800 a month in rent, unless I can provide that same subsidy to everybody who needs that help, I can't, in my heart, continue to provide that for 20 odd households. So that's my reasoning behind supporting this tonight. I will be not supporting any deferrals that do come forward.
Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a question for staff. You mentioned about the geared to income housing. I'm having a hard time comprehending the fact that we're going to sell a property that has somebody who's geared to income in it, and we don't have to place them in another geared to income place. That should automatically circumvent any type of list we have. Don't understand how that works.
Through the chair, the market rent homes were not rent geared to income. They're not part of the service manager complement, and they're not governed by the Housing Services Act. So they were never considered rent geared to income. The rents were always affordable and below market rent because of the length of tenure of a lot of the tenancies. However, a lot of the newer tenants are paying close to market rent. Some of the rents are at the $1,500, $1,600 range, but these were never rent geared to income units.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to put this in some context. So when you're in this chair, you have to make some pretty hard decisions. And sometimes hard decisions impact individuals, and you do it because of the greater good. We're here to serve the entire community. This council committed 3-4 years ago to a very aggressive plan to build and construct affordable housing in our community. We're one of the leaders in Ontario in doing that. Unfortunately, it takes money. And we had a plan that our housing plan was fully funded through what are called development charges. And the provincial government decided about 1.5 years ago that we could no longer use development charges for that purpose. That has left about a $20 million shortfall on our affordable housing budget, where we're actually constructing homes. We're one of the few municipalities in Ontario that are actually constructing and building homes. This is a tough one because these are single-family homes. The proceeds from the sale of these homes will build 3 times the number of affordable subsidized units. So that's so we have, I understand the impact on 20 individual families. It's hard. But then we have the possibility of using the money to fund a shortfall to create 3 times the number of housing units, probably 60 to 70, for rent geared income tenants. That's the kind of hard decisions we as councillors have to make. It's no different than the kinds of decisions that you make. Say, for example, if you're expropriating property for a roadway, you're making a decision that benefits the greater good, a hard decision, but it affects individuals. That's unfortunate. I don't feel good about this. It's a hard decision. I'm quite confident that staff, nobody's going to be out in 30 days. There's a long process here. We're doing our best through our very competent, honest, ethical staff to find as many options as possible for the residents that are being impacted. So I, like Councillor Sicoli, will with some heavy heart vote in favor of this because I honestly and truly believe it's for the greater good of the community at large. So with that, I'm going to call on Councillor Martin, and then I'll go to Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you.
So Van Tilburg.
Through you to staff. My understanding was there were going to be certain blocks that were sold as a block so that they could be developed into a higher density development. Has that been taken off the table, or is that still part of this process?
So through the chair, it's still on the table as an option, as a strategy here. It's just really a matter of how it plays out timing wise. The goal here is, we've been very clear, the goal is to sell 1 or 2 at a time and really take our time to make sure that this process happens smoothly and slowly.
But if you're selling houses for a block for a larger development, would you not get a better price for them if you sell them all as a package? You'd sell them all at once?
So through the chair, not necessarily. In general, when you're buying in bulk, you look for a bit of a discount. So not necessarily.
Okay.
Can I just maybe interject Ray a little bit to Councillor, Mr. Mayor Brian Hutchings, CAO. I think what's has been missing here is the fact that the idea was to go out, talk to the residents. On June 3rd, our staff all went out and talked to the residents. At that point in time, we wanted to see within 30 days who was interested in buying. And there's been a lot of estimates and who was interested in buying. And from that, we could estimate there's 5, 6, 7 families who wanted to buy. And then we could possibly look at selling it to them. And then we would know what's left to look at your question, if you could sell in a block or not. But in the meantime, housing support workers are working with people in RGI applications and market rents. It's, John Noble Home and other homes and things like that. So they're willing to do that. So there's a multitude of answers. Every story is different. They're not all the same because everybody's a different situation. So this is not a process. And as Ray said, we can't flood the market with 25 houses at one time. It'll bottom out the market. So we're trying to do it. It'll be slow and gradual, but the 30 days was really to see who was interested in buying. And there are about 6 or 7 people interested in buying.
Okay. And 60 days notice has been bantied about. My understanding with the Landlord Tenant Act is that for eviction for your own use is 120-day notification period. Is that not correct?
So through the chair, no, my understanding of the Residential Tenancies Act, if we were asked to serve vacant possession, is 60 days.
Oh, okay. Has that been a change recently? Because it used to be 120.
Through the chair, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. I'll be supporting the motion on the floor. I mean, these rents were set up as temporary because the city was going to need these houses to build the road, but unfortunately that's been delayed and now taken off the table. And now that that's off the table, these houses are surplus. And as the mayor said, we can build 3 units for every one we sell. which helps 3 more families. You know, you increase the number of families that we're helping by 2 for each unit. So it's, as he said, it's for the greater good of the community. And the rents on some of these houses are ridiculously low. And, as such are subsidized by the taxpayers of the city, and I can't abide that. Thank you.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
Yeah, are they subsidized? Are the homes subsidized? I'd like to know what subsidy it is.
Sorry, I'm going to ask for decorum,
Are the
please.
homes subsidized?
If I have to, I have to clear out the room. So please be let Councillor Van Tilburg.
Is that
Councillor
not,
Van Tilburg, if you would please, sorry to
Yeah.
intercede.
is this
but-
towards me or is this something else? I'm sorry.
No, it's not to you.
I
No,
thought it was my voice because I'm,
no, go ahead.
are the homes subsidized? Sir, is this
Trouble hearing you,
subsidy?
Councillor Van Tilburg.
Yes, I know, that's why I'm there. Is a home subsidized? They're all market rent, right? Every single home.
That a question to staff, Councillor Van Tilburg?
That is a question. I'll just say
Okay,
it then.
so
I guess we'll just move on. Those are market rents. The homes are not subsidized. You'll have heard 36-year length tenancy. Anybody that's been in a house 36 years is going to have a lower rent. Those that have been here less will have had a higher rent. That's normal. Just because we saw rent spikes up in the area in the last 2 to 3 years doesn't mean that they're getting a subsidy. It means that these people are in the same position that anybody else in the city of Brantford right now is facing, and it's actually creating chaos. Homes that are being bought, tenants evicted who have been long-term tenants who've been having $800, $900 rents in the old wards, in Ward 5, this is our ward, are having to face that $2,100, $3,000 rents. And that's just very, very recent, and we all know that. It also happens to be the biggest problem I have in the ward. People that have had the homes bought and then they're having to leave because, quite frankly, they want them out and they get other tenants in that will pay a higher rent, and it does happen. It happens a lot. In fact, I'm dealing with this all the time, and I literally dealt with it yesterday with a 63-year-old woman who had her home purchased. The new landlords come in and she has to find a new place and can't afford the new rents. This contributes to our housing problem. Now, the city is no different than the private sector. There's an asset there that we can sell that's going to get a lot of money. And yes, that asset that's dedicated will provide monies into the fund for housing. In the meantime, it displaces all these people. And it's how we show respect for all these people and their outcomes. Because as a city, we have to be more responsible than just the private sector. There are some things we're doing better that have been asked, but quite frankly, there's nothing in writing that says that we should do it that way. But we're going to do some of that. But my problem is that when other properties are up for sale that don't displace anybody, and it's been referenced that they go into our affordable housing fund specifically for this, it gets denied, shot down, told that it's ad hoc. And yet we could put those monies into a place and we're not even put anybody out. So we got a situation here where there is some irony here. Yes, we have a whole bunch of different situations and outcomes. All the people are different. Some people are legacy. I'm wondering if there's still some original family legacies, because if you think about it, the city took the homes from people, took the people's homes. Some of them got to stay there, paid the city rent for 30 years. Now that's generated about $400,000 over that 40-year period. Please don't tell me that we subsidize them. We got a house for like $40,000, $30,000 can sell for $700,000 now. So my goodness, I feel like there was almost an attack on the people there for no good reason. They're merely concerned about their future, as are we. We should be. So I'm going to support the deferral. I want to meet with the ward councilors and the residents there. I want to know that, yes, we know, we ward counselors do know what some of the intent was. A couple of ward counselors weren't told any of the intent. They were left out. Some of the documents are not consistent. Sometimes two different people can interpret documents differently. Sometimes two different staffs can document documents differently. And it depends on who they happen to talk to at the day based on the piece of paper they got, which means you can get confusion in messaging. So I hope that you will support the deferral, that you will allow us ward counselors to meet with the tenants, to hear their concerns, to know that we can then advocate on their behalf. That's important. Otherwise, if you're saying no, let's go ahead with this. We're going to do the greater good. Well, to me, if the greater good means we're not going to listen and we're going to put somebody out in the street, or they're going to have to use their money because they don't have enough money for rent, but they might have enough money for a hotel one night here and there, or car surfing. I am dealing with that. We're dealing with that right now.
Councillor Van Tilburg,
That's the epidemic. When you say there's the housing crisis, it's almost been brought on to us by the number of people buying houses and evicting tenants.
Thank you. Councillor Caputo.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Davis. I think that whatever decision's being made here this evening isn't taking away the fact that the ward council still can't reach out to these tenants and speak to these individuals. So whether we defer or whether we don't, there's a huge time frame that's being lapsed between now and what's going to happen over the time that before anything is really going to happen. So I advise the ward councillors of this area to actually go out and meet with the people and see what assistance can be given.
Councillor Carpenter, why don't you, you've been waiting patiently there.
Can I speak before I
Yes,
do my amendment?
absolutely.
Because I want to speak to the residents directly and to the media that's here as well. So we're going to take people that are living in affordable housing units now because they're affordable because they've been there so long, their rents aren't $2,500 a month or maybe $1,200. So we're going to evict those by the sale of those houses, and somebody else will evict them instead of us doing it, of course. And then they're going to be looking for homes at $2,500. So we're saying we're going to move you out of what's an affordable living for yourself so that we can provide affordable living. Let me tell you where this started. This started June 14th, 2022. It came to council 2 years ago around this time. And at that time, and I believe it was Councilor Caputo said, I'm not going to evict people without some kind of a compassionate way to make sure that they're moved on to other kinds of living or other opportunities. And the council of the day turned it down. It was denied. It came back again with another report on November 14th, 2023. Oh, sorry, April 2023. At that time, the recommendation was this, that we would sell these houses eventually, but there was a part in there that said market rent homes will be placed on the real estate market only once a unit becomes vacant. So it was compassionate. It had some common sense in there so that you're not being evicted. We're not making you homeless. But of course, that whole resolution was taken out. I believe it was Councilor Scully. And then the resolution put in place was to take that piece out. And that's what's.
Councillor Carpenter.
That's what's before us now.
Councillor Carpenter. Be careful.
Can you tell us, tell me who moved the resolution then?
First and foremost, can we just be discussing things that happen in camera quite publicly, like is that?
Well, it's an open session now. It's no longer in camera, by the way.
Okay, I'll remember that. Go ahead,
So
go ahead.
the point I'm making here is that we couldn't speak to this issue till now. Well, you can file charges if you want. Yeah, fine. We weren't able to speak.
Councillor Scully, Councillor Carpenter, I'm going to ask you, I'll certainly try your speaking opportunity, but ask you that certainly it's out here, it's open for debate, but I think it's inappropriate that you talk about who moved what or what in camera.
Talk about how people voted in camera, except for say I voted against it every step of the way.
Yeah, I don't think he did.
Yes, I did. And the point I'm trying to make here is that there was another opportunity to do something differently. But it didn't happen in November 14, 2023, because gosh, how would that look hitting the media coming out just before Christmas that we're going to put you out of your homes? At the same time, we just dealt with getting rid of a large park in our community for affordable housing. That was very controversial in our community. So here we are again. Now, the second point here is that there is an opportunity to put that back in. The market rent homes will be placed on the real estate market only once the unit becomes vacant. That makes the most sensible way for us to slowly move out of owning these homes. We could easily do that. And secondly, I want to ask staff, you came out to the community and dropped flyers off in the neighborhood to the residents in our Ward 4 and 5. Why were the Ward 4 and 5 councilors not even aware that that was happening?
If I can, through,
I asked staff, okay.
I'm staff. I'm your only staff, actually.
Go ahead.
The Ward 5 councilors, I met with them, myself and the director on 2 occasions. I apologize to your colleague in Ward 4 that for some reason, we didn't know the one half of the street was in Ward 4. It was corrected to me 2 weeks ago. So I apologize to your ward colleague and 2 other councilors, Ward 5 council. I met with them 2 different occasions to go over a whole. I made a commitment to Councilor Van Tilburg that we wouldn't do anything until we met with him and Councilor Samwell. And they did that on 2 occasions.
Okay, thank you. Then the other point I would like to make is that the notices were sent out. Why, when the original resolution of April 23rd said that this recommendation, which was to sell these properties, come to open session at the first available council meeting? Why is it coming out now, this late?
Because this is the first sale of our property. This is the 18 Park Road on the bylaw 107 will be the first sale of any
No,
property.
the recommendation that was done in camera was supposed to come to open session. Why did that not happen?
I'm not aware why. This is why it's coming tonight is because the bylaw is on before the sale.
All right, I'm not gonna have debate. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I think there's been a lot of errors made here. And I think that, you know, we as members of council were restricted from speaking to this to our constituents about what was coming their way by our in-camera policies. And then staff decide when that is gonna become open session, when.
Can you wrap it in 20 seconds?
So I think that's unfair. So I'd like to move a motion that we defer this for 1 cycle for the ward councilors to meet with the constituents and staff to find solutions.
So that, I assume is seconded by your ward mate, Councillor Hunt?
Seconded by Councilor Curry, actually.
Councillor Curry?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that's not debatable except as to time and place, but you said very clearly 1 cycle, so we'll call the vote on that.
Do we not get an opportunity to speak if we were called out by name by another counselor? Is that in Robert's rules somewhere?
You would have had to raise a point of personal privilege at the time. You can do so later.
The deferral for 1 meeting cycle carries on a recorded vote as 7-4. Members of council voting in favor are as follows. Councilors Sullivan, Celeste McCurry, Hunt, Van Tilburg, Samuel Carpenter. Members opposed, Councilors Martin, Caputo, Sicoli, and Mayor Davis.
All right, so we'll move on to the next item that we had a delegation. So why don't I, at this point, we'll take a short, very short break because we've dealt with the matter in respect to the sale of properties. We'll take a short 5-minute break and then we'll reconvene and we'll deal with the planning matter.
Okay, I'd like to reconvene in about 30 seconds, please. All right, so I'd like to reconvene, please. Mr. Clerk, please come back up. Yes, I have. All right, well, we can. Okay, so we're back and we're going to deal with the next item, which is, please members, if you would bring in this meeting to order, please. So the next item is 12.7.1. That's the planning application re Mount Pleasant Road. And because we don't have an omnibus yet motion to put everything on the floor, I'm going to need a mover and seconder to get this on the floor for discussion. The recommendation coming from the planning committee, moved by Councilor McCreary, seconded by Councilor Sullivan.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
can I rise on a point of order, please?
yes, go ahead.
I'd like to rise on a point of order. I raised two members of council's name during my heated debate, Council Capoto and Council Stricoli, and I apologize for doing that.
Thank you. Yes, Councilor Samwell.
So I would like to, oh gosh, I forgot the word. A point of personal preference or personal
Privilege.
whatever the thing is. I just wanted to bring some clarity to something that was said. So Councillor Van Tilborg and I did meet with staff in advance of the flyers going out, but that was to mitigate what was going to happen and try and support the tenants in the best way that we could. So that was what that meeting was about. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let's move on. So we now have before us the resolution respect to Mount Pleasant Road. Okay, floor is open for discussion. Councilor Sikoli.
There were a few things that came up during the discussion that I wanted to provide some clarification on because I did work really hard on this project and a lot of the information that was brought forward by our delegate, we had a lot of discussion on. So the parkland that we were looking at relocating, it was not supported by staff. My understanding is that or the school board, because we wanted that park beside the school because there is another parkland, but it's very slopey and not conducive for proper play for children in like the schoolyard. So just given the natural terrain of the other park, it was preferred that the smaller parcel of park remain beside the school lot. The school board from the developer did not necessarily, they didn't approve any relocation of the park there on that. Now there is provision, because I know that our delegate did mention that we wanted to provide access from Mount Pleasant, and just so that everybody knows, there is a provision of draft plan that states that the developer will be providing a walkway from Mount Pleasant to access those parks. It may have been missed. There were hundreds of provisions attached to that draft plan, and I'm probably the only nerd that actually read them all. So there was a provision in there that there will be a walkway from Mount Pleasant. And like I said, I've extended to the delegate, and I have already sent emails that we will work on creating a situation with woodland or wooded lot behind those properties in the cul-de-sac that everyone could be happy with at the end of the day. But it's not something that would require any type of amendment at this point. It would be something between the developer, facilitated by myself and worked on between the developer and the homeowner. And my understanding, the developer is happy to work with that and move that forward. So I will be supporting this move forward today. And again, I just want to give a huge shout out to the neighborhood. The Pioneer Grove neighborhood was so amazing to work with, and all of the neighbors that participated in the landowner group really contributed to the discussion in a respectful and constructive way. And we were able to come together with a plan that everyone can be happy with, and hopefully it will enhance their life once it's all built, and there'll be some beautiful parks. We do have some commercial amenities coming in. That was a nice little surprise to see that the developer heard us on the need for commercial out in Ward 1, specifically in the West Grant area. So a lot of great things coming here. I know change is always very hard for the existing community, and I'm just so proud of the way that we've all worked together to come up with a plan that everyone can be very happy with at the end of the day. So thank you so much to everyone, and I will be supporting this today. Thank you.
Councillor Sullivan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question to staff. I was in on most of the meetings that were transpiring, and I seen when Cache moved the park temporarily, and I heard staff say that it couldn't be done because it would set things back a year, because it would just eliminate the entire plan and have to start from scratch. My question is, has there been discussions with Cache and staff with regards to putting that woodland in, that buffer in between those homes and that cul-de-sac?
So through the chair to the Councillor Nicole Wilmot, Acting Commissioner of Community Development, with respect to providing for the retention of the trees in that area as well as a buffer in that area. During the public hearing, the developer did actually reiterate his commitment to continue to work with staff through detailed design to retain as many trees as possible on that lot, which will be determined as we, go through the process further with respect to planning applications, as well as there are draft plan conditions to address the walkway as well as the buffering and landscaping required in those areas as well. So the developer did commit to continue to work with the residents as well as the ward councillors to come up with an appropriate buffering between lot 274 or block 274 and the residents that are backing onto that area.
Okay, I'd also like it just to make a note too, that if we're gonna look at putting more trees in there to create a bigger buffer, that we're not looking at 1 and 2 and 3-year-old juvenile trees, that we're trying to put a little more mature tree in there so that there is some segregation between the older neighborhood and the new. Thank you.
Councillor Sluss?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I sit on the planning committee and the hearing that we had I think it was last week. And I think it's fortunate. This is a rather contentious development. It's the new meeting the older, and it's always difficult. But I'll tell you, the developer in this case was very accommodating, and he was not what typically you would find at a planning hearing where they're very rigid on what they're going to do, and that's that, and this is how it's done, and this is what I'm doing. These folks were very accommodating. They were listening, and the principal of the company came up a number of times and made clarity of what they were prepared to do and what they weren't prepared to do, but it was mostly what they were prepared to do. And so for that reason, and I guess not only that reason, I know Councillor Sicoli spent countless hours on this file. I know that. And if it's good for her, it's good for me. And the other ward councillor is jumping in on it. So I could support this, Mr. Mayor. I think it's the best you're going to do. And I think we're very fortunate that we had a developer that we do have on this property that was prepared to accommodate and make concessions to fit into the neighborhood. So I'm pleased to support it.
Councillor Carpenter?
Yes, I would echo those comments. Actually, at the meeting, I was very impressed with the fact that Cache had worked with both the Ward 1 councillors, and they had worked explicitly with the developer to make sure the parkland was where it is and the kind of parkland that they would have. And some roads that the staff, the residents didn't want open. One of them was closed permanently. One of them was possibly temporarily closed. And that was all as a result of listening to the neighborhood. And when you look at the development, I mean, it's not what you see in a typical development. Most developments coming forward now have a lot of intensification, a lot of fourplexes, a lot of sixplexes, a lot of four-story buildings. This is very little of that. It's actually more larger homes, and some larger homes that are backing on the other larger homes in the other neighborhoods. So I was quite impressed that the development from the developer was as Councillor Sluss said, meets the old with the new actually very well. And it was a very nice development how it was done. So kudos to the ward councillors, because I know that they work with the constituents and the developer back and forth to make sure this come out as a nice development. Thank you. And I will be supporting it.
Councillor McCurry?
Mayor, thank you. very much. I echo the previous two speakers. The developer was quite accommodating with respect to stopping up. I believe it was Clement Drive, which is what the neighbors had been looking for. That was the stumbling block in terms of my accepting the proposal as it was before us. And he was quite willing to do that and proposed that it might be revisited in years to come when the city assumes the operation of those streets. So I'm happy to support this here. And as Councillor, I believe Councillor Carpenter said, and I hope he doesn't mind me mentioning his name. I hope I don't have to apologize for that later on, but Councillor Carpenter is quite correct with respect to what he said here. There were countless hours spent by the ward councillors on this. And as we often say here, we should be supporting the initiatives and the hard work of ward councillors in all respects.
I've got a question for staff on this application. So I actually did view the stream tape of the entire meeting. So I'm pretty understanding what was said at the meeting. But one thing that I found hard to understand is that in reference to this particular area, Plan 3 or Part 3, Phase 3, that it said that the area that is adjacent to Callie Farrell's home, that area had not been, the actual configuration of lots had not been provided and was going to be provided at a later date. And like, what exactly will that process be?
So to the mayor, what we were referring to is on, if you look at the appendix in the draft plan that's been provided, it's referred to as a block, which ranges between 4 and 10 units, which have been identified. The zoning has been drafted to allow for some flexibility with respect to the ultimate units that will be located in that area. And so that is what is essentially being referred to, is that the plan before you has not been lotted out with specific lots. So that's what that reference was referring to.
Well, I heard the proponent, the developers, say that in that particular area, there were going to be wider lots with, I think it was 36 to 40 feet in width, and that they couldn't provide a schematic of that at that stage. There was further design work to be done that'd be provided at a later date. So what's that process going to be?
So that's correct. That this is the draft plan application stage. There is further detailed design work that will come. This plan is a result of the block plan that was approved. However, there are still further applications that we will see, we will see site planning applications going through detailed design with respect to that. And there may also be, at the time, there may be further zoning amendments that may be required at the time that these applications ultimately come forward. This is the third phase, and it ultimately will not be constructed for several years. The developer will look to do phase 1 and phase 2 first, so we likely won't see this phase for several years down the road.
And what will the process be to obtain neighborhood input in respect to the size of those lots, their configuration, and the buffering?
So ultimately, the input will come. So ultimately, some of that has been established through the draft plan and the draft plan conditions. Site planning, as you know, is done in consultation with the applicant as well as the ward councillors and city staff as well. And there is ultimately opportunity for the councillors to continue to gauge with their ward with respect to developments that are moving forward. And ultimately, if there are statutory hearings required, which could be, future zoning applications, those would come before committee and the public as well.
Great, thank you. So just by way of comment, there was some confusion that I had spoken to these landowners, and was my understanding from a staff member that's no longer with us, that in fact, there had been an understanding that there would be a flipping of the parks and to that lot. Since then, having spoken to other staff members, I understand the reason why the park is there beside the school. It's centrally located in the 2 phases, whereas if it's that cul-de-sac, it really only serves a small portion of the overall development. I was impressed with the developer providing 30% more green and open space than what's required. And also, I think it's demonstrated pretty clear commitment by the developer to working with the ward councillors and the residents, having made a number of adjustments to the block plan to address in part as much as they possibly could the concerns of residents. I was impressed that in that particular area, they're going to provide for lots that are wider and thus less dense. I think that's appropriate in an area where the immediately adjacent properties are obviously estate residential. So, and the developer committing to a proper buffering and doing fences and whatnot. I think we've seen from this developer's record here in Brantford that when they say something, they usually follow through. And I'm quite content that with the ward councillors, the work they're doing, I'm sure they'll continue to be covering this very closely and meeting regularly with the residents. So I'm going to vote in favor of this as well. And since I don't see any other speakers, I'm going to call the vote.
Item 12.7.1 carries on a recorded vote of 10-1. Members of council voting in favor, Councillors Sullivan, Celeste, McCreary, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Carpenter, Martin, Caputo, Sicoli, Mayor Davis. Members opposed, Councillor Hunt.
All right, so we got right into that without doing the clerk's report and communication minutes. So Councillor Sullivan, would you please read the motion to receive the clerk's report and communication?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, second by my ward mate, Councillor Sicoli, that the clerk's report on communication for June 2024 be received.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote.
The clerk's report on communication carries on a recorded vote of 11-0. Members of council voting in favor, Councillors Sullivan, Celeste, McCreary, Hunt, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Carpenter, Martin, Caputo, Sicoli, and Mayor Davis.
All right, so we also have to deal with the minutes. Councillor McCreary, I understand you got the motion to adopt the minutes. Would you please read your motion and state your sector?
Mayor, thank you very much. Yes, you are correct. I am moving the minutes, seconded by Councillor Martin, that the minutes be received.
And Mr. City Clerk, if you could read out what those minutes are.
The following minutes are to be adopted. Special City Council minutes from May 14th, the May 14th private and confidential minutes, the May 28th Special City Council minutes, the May 28th private and confidential minutes, the City Council minutes from the May 28th meeting, the June 11th Special City Council meeting, the June 11th private and confidential meeting minutes, as well as the John Noble Home of Committee of Management for June 12th meeting.
Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, call the vote.
The adoption of all minutes carries on a recorded vote of 11-0. Members of council voting in favor, Sullivan, Celeste, McCreary, Hunt, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Carpenter, Martin, Caputo, Sicoli, and Mayor Davis.
All right, so we'll now move on to the committee reports. Councillor Celeste, I understand you have the motion to place all separated items, which we haven't already dealt with, to put them on the floor for discussion.
So moved, Mr. Mayor, seconded by my ward mate, Councillor Caputo.
All right, so we'll deal with the first item left over from the delegations. And that is the item 12.5.2, which is 2023 year-end operating budget surplus. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the vote.
The motion carries on a recorded vote of 11-0. Members of council voting in favor, Councillors Van Tilburg, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCreary, Martin, Celeste, Caputo, Sullivan, Sicoli, and Mayor Davis.
All right, the next item that was separated would be item 12.4.1. That's the city grants program. Councilor Caputo, you asked for this to be separate.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In our last session, we actually had this deferred to come back in August, but I don't know if that's what I believe should be done here. I think as much as it's great that city staff is putting some time into it, I think my intent is to stay the way we have been. Certainly with groups like Nova Vita, the Food Bank, Seniors Resource Centers, the brand Food for Thought. We've done a great job with those groups already, so I think we should just keep it status quo. And I hope that we actually vote this down tonight to be able to stay where we're at with it. I just want some clarity from the clerk if I can. If we actually vote this down, is there a motion that needs to be done to go back to the old, or is this just get defeated? And
Yeah,
everything
you'll get
stays
the clarity from the chair who runs the meeting. And so.
Mr. Mayor, can you please clarify?
Yes, I will. So if you're voting yes on this resolution, you're voting to defer it. If you're voting no, and the motion before us is the deferral that came from the committee, then that fails. And then we then have to put back on the floor the original motion. And then that would have to be amended.
That was my question.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so it would come back to us without the deferral, but right, with the, yeah, you explain it.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
I tried.
So through the chair, currently, right now, the deferral is deferring the whole item with the pending amendment. So if council votes no, they are voting down the whole resolution. And if council would wish to provide a different option, then at that point in time, they would have to move a new resolution.
That's what I was saying, putting a new resolution on the floor till I was interrupted by Councilor Secoli. So there you go. So any debate on the resolution?
Can I get a further clarification, Mr. Mayor? So that would mean if the resolution was the deferral was voted no, this doesn't come back to the floor, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, unless someone puts something on the
Or
floor,
but if we don't put it back on the floor. it
then
doesn't
there's
happen.
nothing.
Okay, thank you.
Any further, Councilor Hunt?
Thank you, and through you to staff. I did see Aaron there. I believe the deferral was so that we could consult with the groups that were affected and realizing that was only a couple of weeks ago. Have we had that consultation or not yet?
I'll answer that if I can. So no, we have not reached out. This has not been a motion approved by council. So we don't not act on things until they're approved by council. So no, we have not reached out.
Okay, so at this point then, because I have heard from some of the groups, that's, I guess, my, so obviously they're aware that this is being floated around. Yeah, okay.
It's a public document, so they would have been aware and somebody would have mentioned it to them. Yes.
Yeah, I'll take kind of a different perspective on it. I'm going to vote in favor of the resolution to defer because I thought it may be very useful to obtain further information from these groups, what their situation is. Do they still need this money? Maybe they need more money. But providing with an opportunity to give input and respect the decision, because wasn't that the essence of deferring? You didn't want to make the decision without input from them. So why would you not want input from them? And it certainly doesn't indicate in any way you're prejudging it and that it would in any way necessarily be a final decision against those organizations. But in fact, I think providing the deferral gives them the opportunity to give the input that would allow us to kind of customize it based on their present and current circumstances. So with that, I guess Councilor McCurry.
Mayor, thank you. Yes, I think that was our intent at the time, to defer to allow for consultation. I think we've gotten a flavor from the community that there's some angst concerning our mid-course change with respect to how some of these groups obtained funding from us. And I'm of the opinion to agree with Councilor Caputo that probably best to take a pass on this. I would like to ask a question of staff. In the event that this is not approved tonight, can staff confirm that there'd be no change to the way we've always provided funding to these groups?
Through the chair, Aaron Wallace, Director of Community Strategies and Family Support. So no, pending the consultation and deferral, there'll be no change to these groups.
Thank you very much. I think it's a problem that didn't need a solution. Thank you.
Councilor Sluss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I supported the deferral so that consultation could take place. And it sure did on my phone. I got a lot of consultation, that's for sure. And I was reached out to a number of times and a few phone calls. And I think they were very clear in their direction. They were very, very concerned. And having heard what they had to say, I'm not sure, this is kind of muddled. I'm not going to support the deferral. Well, then it brings it back for a vote, or does that? I need that clarity again. I don't know.
So
whether
the
it has to
clarity,
follow the running
is
event.
this. So if you vote against this, then the deferral and the entire motion fails, okay?
Okay.
And then there'd be nothing on the floor. Right? And we may be content to just let that be the situation.
Okay.
Or someone may want to put some amended resolution on the floor that because there is more to that resolution than just dealing with those particular groups, and put back on the floor a resolution that amends what staff presented to us by, I think similar to what the amendments were at the committee of the whole. So I know it's a bit confusing, but that's what we're dealing with. Councillor Samuel.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, I too generally would like to have consultation every time about everything, because that's important. But for this as well, I'm going to vote against deferring it, because I think that we've heard enough already to know that these organizations need our support and the value that they bring to our community. So I'll definitely be voting against the deferral tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Scully.
Thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to speak, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to be voting against the deferral so that in the hopes that this will just disappear for us and die. I won't be bringing anything forward. I love what a counselor colleague of mine has said with consultation certainly took place on my phone. I was approached even by the teachers union with the Brant Food for Thought because there are thousands of children that rely on this funding, and to even consider removing that would be a travesty for the neighborhood and for the children. So I will not be not supporting the deferral in the hopes that this just goes away. Thanks.
Councillor Carpenter.
Yes, thanks to my council colleagues for not supporting the deferral, because I will not support the deferral. Thank you, Councillor Caputo. The thing to remember here is these agencies that are receiving this money, that it's been that money for a long time. They haven't had increases. They've had all kinds of inflation and all kinds of extra funds to have to do things that they cost for them to deal with, for the food programs, for the senior resource center, and food bank. There's been lots of cost to them. They haven't had increases. We haven't given them an increase in a lot of years. And so I'm happy to support against the deferral and let this die in the vine.
All right, so I'm going to call the vote then on the motion to defer.
The motion to defer is lost on a recorded vote of 2-9 members of council voting against. Councillors Sullivan, Celeste, McCreary, Hunt, and Tilburg, Samuel, Carpenter, Caputo, Sicoli. Members for Mayor Davis and Councillor Martin.
Okay, so we have nothing on the floor, and unless I hear a mover and seconder to put something on the floor in the next 5 seconds, we're going to move on. Okay, so we're now going to move on to 12.4.2, which is Councillor McCreary, you want to make an amendment to the corporate and human resources policy. No, it doesn't. 2 is before 18, if you can do your math. Go ahead, Councillor McCreary.
Mayor, thank you for that math lesson. 2 does come before 18. So what's before us is an update to the HR policy. And I do have an amendment which is seconded by Councillor Martin that we defer this in order to receive comments from the Brantford Police Association and other municipal employee reps regarding the employee computer purchase plan policy. and this applies strictly to clause C. And I will say, through you, Mayor, wherever you may be, that I don't believe we had adequate consultation with folks that work for the Brantford Police Service. And this relates to a plan that the corporation of the city of Brantford's had in place for many, 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 many years, which allows our employees and the employees of the police service to buy computers by way of an interest-free loan. It really is a, I guess, not a condition of employment, but it's a benefit that employees have enjoyed for many, many years. And Brantford police staff are one of the largest uptakers, I guess, of this program. And although a lot of our city staff, the majority actually have access to laptop computers and devices like we have in front of us tonight, it's not the case with the police. They just have the computers in the car. So it may be important to them. And that's why I think we want to do that consult before we approve this, just to make sure that we're not, you know, putting our folks in a bad way and taking away a benefit that they've enjoyed for a long time.
Any other discussion regarding the amendment? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
The amendment to item 12.4.2 carries unanimously on a recorded vote. Members of council vote in favor. Councillor Sullivan, Celeste, McCurry, Hunt, and Tobord, Samuel, Carpenter, Martin, Caputo, and Councillor Sikoli, Mayor Davis.
Right, and do we need to vote on the balance of that resolution? I think it was part of it, yeah. Yeah, so all right, so to the balance of the resolution, any discussion? Saying none, I'll call the vote. This is the unamended part of that resolution.
The remaining portion of the resolution carries unanimously on recorded votes. Councillors Van Tilburg, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin, Celeste, Caputo, Sullivan, Sikoli, Mayor Davis, all voting in favor.
And then flash forwarding from 12.4.2, 12.4.18, Councillor Sikoli.
I separated this just to vote against it, because I see no value in creating makeshift work for our staff when I know I'm not going to be supporting it. I just value what we do with our money here at the city of Brantford, I suppose. I'm consistent. I will never support designating a property without all of the homeowners wanting to be having that designation. And I think anybody who wants that designation will reach out to us and go through the proper avenues to obtain that. I think there's a lot of unintended consequences to designating heritage. And from my understanding of the discussion we've had, if a property is designated heritage, it then places restrictions on all abutting properties. So if your backyard touches a house on Erie Ave, I would be asking the question, you know, am I going to be wrapped up in special permits for 6 months when I try to build a deck in my backyard? These are the kind of questions that you need to be asking. And if we're going to be consulting with anyone, it should be every single property that will actually be affected, not just the houses that we're looking at designating. In saying that, I doubt that we'll have 100% of everybody saying, yes, I'm into this, I want this designation on my property. And unless I had every single 100% of the homeowners in this area saying, yes, I will never support it because it's expropriation without compensation. And I've heard someone say that up here before. It's not my own words, but I'll never support something like this. So I see no value in utilizing our staff time in this way. Thank you.
Councillor Samuel.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor. So I just wanted to talk about the resolution that's before you. It's not to designate anything at this time. It is specifically to consult with the folks on Erie Ave to give them the same opportunity to have that street treated in the same way that our beautiful Brant Ave is treated. And I think that they deserve to have that opportunity. $500 for some flyers is a small price to pay to actually be able to consult with the community. And so at this point, I'm hoping that I will receive the same amount of support that I received at the committee of the whole in this regard. And that way the citizens can have their say. Thank you.
Well, that was Councillor McCurry.
That is a difficult act to follow. And I will be supporting Councillor Samwell and her ward mate, Councillor Van Tilburg, in this endeavor. It is asking a question of their community, asking the question, do you think this is a good idea? And I'm sure they'll be asking the people, not just on Erie Avenue, but maybe even the people on the street behind. Whatever that street is. So, and I must say as well, like the investment of time that the Ward 1 councillors put into the planning item that was just before us, and we all agree that they spent countless hours on that. I'm sure Councillor Samwell has spent countless hours working on this initiative, and she and Councillor Van Tilburg will be spending countless hours going forward in consulting with their neighborhood and asking the question, do you want to do this? And out of that question will come the answer, which will then come back to this committee. So much as we supported, you know, the work of the Ward 1 councillors in the planning matter, I think we should also support the work of the Ward 5 councillors. And I think to something that Councillor Carpenter says quite often, that it's important to support the ward councillors, and I will be. Thank you.
Councillor Caputo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, I mean, at the committee of the whole, I supported and I will support this again tonight only because my stance on heritage doesn't change. It's up to the residents and the area. And if they say yes, then they're in all agreement. If they say no, it's not up to me to tell somebody that their house or their area is supposed to be heritage. So I will support this. And apparently we all forgot to bring our football helmets tonight.
All right, let's get it on track. I'm going to join Councillor Sicoli in opposing this, and that's because I actually had experience in designating Brant Ave, and the whole process that occurred in the 80s was actually driven by the people that live on this street on Brant Ave. They're the ones that came and pushed forward and lobbied for it. It wasn't brought forward by councillors. And I will say with all due respect, what I perceive this to be, I'll call a spade a spade. It looks to me like it's an attempt to do an end run around the official plan that designates that as a major artery. And that, you know, I wonder if this is driven more by other residents in Eagle Place rather than residents themselves on Erie Ave. And do they really know that what the implications are? That if they want to put a deck or change a window, they got to go through a permitting procedure. It'll take them months rather than just going down to Home Depot and buying the lumber and changing their deck after they get a building permit. There is a very much a major impact once the street has been designated as a heritage district. And I hope that'll be fully explained, not to those who live elsewhere in Eagle Place, but to those people that'll be affected, those who own property on Erie Avenue. And I'd be surprised if there was a majority of residents on that street who, after it's fully explained to them what's involved and what's entailed in this, that they'll be in favor of designating the entire street as a heritage district. So I agree with Councillor Sicoli. I think it's very unlikely that when fully informed and provided an informed consent that the residents will agree to it, at least a majority required to do a street. You know, so why are we asking staff to spend this time on something that I think is really not going to result in anything of substance? So, so with that, I call a vote. Mr. Clerk.
I had my finger up, Mayor Davis, but and
Sorry, Van. So Van Tilburg.
through you. To be clear, we wouldn't be going through this endeavor.
Can you get closer to the microphone there, Councillor Van Tilburg?
Yeah, I'll put my face against the screen. To be clear, we wouldn't be bringing this forward if it hadn't been from the people of Erie Ave. I have other things that we could do, but this was an initiative, and so our job is to bring them information. And it was also mentioned about the adjacent properties, and probably one of the things that we say about the adjacent properties is how they are affected by development next to their property. So when you say, well, you know, it's a double-edged sword where you say, whoa, if you do heritage and your property will be affected this way, well, it's the same thing. If something nice goes down and something goes ugly up behind your house next to your fence, it's the same argument. And so it was significant. It wasn't just, you know, a handful of people. It was significant enough to say, hey, let's investigate this and bring it to the community. You know, you were, Mayor Davis, you were around at Brant Ave time. I was not. But we would like to go through the process and see where we end up. Thank you.
Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's just been mentioned that there's a development that's pushing a lot of this. And I see this as a knee-jerk reaction to a development of one property. So I think it's using a sledgehammer to try and swat a fly. And that doesn't usually work very well because the fly's a lot quicker than a sledgehammer. So I don't see any point in going through this process. It's a waste of staff time. And without, you know, a petition from the neighborhood is being more driven by the ward councillors is the way I see this. I don't know if that's correct or not, but I'll be voting against this. I don't think it's the right thing to do. I think we'll see how the vote goes. Thank you.
All right, so I'll call the vote.
Item 12.4.18 carries on a recorded vote of 8-3. Members of council voting in favor, Councilors Sullivan, Sluss, McCurry, Hunt, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Carpenter, Caputo. Members opposed, Councilors Martin, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
So that deals with the committee reports. So now we'll move to item through, I think it's 13, is it not? Urgent reports. So we have two urgent reports. Councilor Samuel, I understand you're going to be the mover of item 13.1. You please confirm that, identify your seconder, and read the resolution.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Van Tilburg that report 2024-361 funding recommendations for cultural and built heritage grant program applications be received, that the Canadian Military Heritage Museum be funded $43,048 for their 2024-25 CMHM Air Quality Preservation Improvement Project for cultural and built heritage from the Cultural and Built Heritage Reserve, and that the Woodland Cultural Center be funded $41,837 for their 2024-2025 WWC Museum Building Plumbing Repair Project from the Cultural Heritage Built Reserve, and that staff be directed to execute an agreement between the City of Brantford and both organizations to the satisfaction of the Director of Economic Development, Tourism and Cultural Initiatives, and that both organizations be directed to submit final reports upon completion of their projects. And just to speak to that, I think that this is urgent tonight so that we can have these projects move forward. It's already been approved by the Economic Development Committee. Thank you.
Any discussion? Seeing none, call the vote.
Item 13.1 carries unanimously on recorded votes. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councilors Van Tilburg, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin, Sluss, Caputo, Sullivan, Sokoli, Mayor Davis.
All right, so we have another urgent matter, and I believe Councilor Carpenter, you've got the mover of that item, number 13.2. Please confirm that. Identify your seconder and read the resolution. It's a municipal funding agreement, the transfer of the Canada Community Building Fund.
Mr. Mayor, moved by myself, second by my ward mate, that report number 2024-14 entitled Municipal Funding Agreement for the Transfer of Canada Community Building Fund be received, and that the municipal funding agreement between the Association of Municipalities of Ontario and the corporate city of Brantford relating to 2024 Canada Community Building Fund be placed on the signing bylaw for execution by the mayor and clerk.
Any discussion? Saying none, I'll take the vote.
Item 13.2 carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 9-0. Members of council voting in favor, Councillor Sullivan, Celeste, McCurry, Hunt, Samuel, Carpenter, Martin, Caputo, and Mayor Davis.
So we're going to move into resolutions, and we've got a little unusual situation, 14.1, which we previously dealt with by way of a deferral. There was caught up in that resolution, which is reflected in bylaw 107, resolution authorizing the sale, putting forward a bylaw authorizing the sale of the vacant property at 18 Park Road South. So you know, we need to pass this bylaw tonight, otherwise there could be legal implications for us. And so I've asked Councillor Caputo if he would present a resolution that would be specifically limited, particularly limited to that particular property, so we can bylaw. So Councillor Caputo, go ahead, please.
Motion to waive the rules, 18 Park Road South, that despite the concerns raised regarding the sale of the BSAR properties, but noting that the property known municipally as 18 Park Road South is vacant at this time, that council approved the sale of property known municipally as 18 Park Road South, and that sales bylaw in relation to the sale of this property be presented to council for consideration.
All right, so the secondary you have is your
Councillor Martin.
Okay, and so just to be clear, the first we deal with the motion to waive rules require 2/3 vote. And so I'm going to call the vote on that motion to waive rules. Then we'll put the actual motion on the floor if it gets 2/3.
The motion to waive the rules carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 10-0. Members voting in favor, Councillor Sullivan, Celeste, McCurry, Hunt, Samuel, Caputo, Martin, Carpenter, Sokoli, Mayor Davis.
So Councillor Caputo, do you want to put it on the resolution on the floor now? You've got permission?
Yep. Can I see it? Just need to read the title. 18 Park Road South.
And so again, the same seconder? Yep.
Same seconder.
All right, any discussion? Councillor Slough.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought there were two properties sold. And we're only referencing one.
Through the chair to the councillor, one property is still on the market and one is sold firm.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Councillor Carpenter, Councillor McCurry.
Yeah, I'm happy to support this. This is a vacant property, so we're not putting anybody out on the street. It's already vacant, so it's an opportunity to sell this property and receive some money to put in our affordable housing fund. So I will support this.
Councillor Curry?
Mayor, thank you. And it's the same process that we used in selling the single houses in the Mayfair area to devote the proceeds from that to building more affordable housing. And I do wish to commend staff from saving us from our well-intentioned ad hocery in making sure that we were looking out for the residents. We omitted the fact that we had to do this, and thank you, staff.
Okay, I'll call the vote.
The motion carries on a recorded vote of 10-0. Members of council voting in favor, Councillor Sullivan, Celeste, McCurry, Hunt, Samuel, Carpenter, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
All right, so we have one other resolution, it's 14.2, having to do with the tentative settlement with CUPE. And I think Councillor Sullivan, you've got that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by my ward mate, Councillor Sokoli, that council ratify the settlement reached between the corporation of the city of Brantford and the Canadian Union of Public Employees, CUPE Local 181, outside unit for renewal of the collective agreement to cover the period of August 2nd, 2023 to April 3rd of 2027.
Any discussion? Seeing none, call the vote.
Item 14.2 carries unanimously on a recorded vote. Members of council voting in favor, Councillors Sokoli, Sullivan, Caputo, Sluss, Martin, McCreary, Carpenter, Hunt, and Samwell, and Mayor Davis.
All right, so we've got one notice of motion. I believe Councillor Martin, it's yours. If you could read the title, please.
Yes, Bill 88, Protecting Ontarians and Enhancing Gas Station Safety to Prevent Gas and Dash Act. Resolution of support.
Thank you for that. So we'll now move into bylaws. Councillor Hunt has the Mayor of the Month. You get the honor of making the motion for first and second reading, I assume with your ward mates seconding of that.
I do.
Councillor Carpenter, seconding?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Seconded by
So
Councillor.
as we all sit back, go ahead, Councillor Hunt, and read that long list of bylaws.
Yes, as Mayor of the Month. So that leave be given to the mover and seconder to introduce the following bylaws for first and second reading. 79-2024, which is a bylaw to amend bylaw 144-88, being a bylaw to regulate parking in the city of Brantford Uplands Drive. Schedule 7, parking prohibited any time. Public Works Policy 021, amending on-street parking regulation. Bylaw 80-2024, which is a bylaw to amend bylaw 144-88, being a bylaw to regulate parking in the city of Brantford, Brighton Ave, Schedule 11, alternate side of street parking, Public Works Policy 021, amending on-street parking regulations. Bylaw 81-2024, which is a bylaw to amend bylaw 144-88, being a bylaw to regulate parking in the city of Brantford, Coachwood Road, Schedule 12, alternate side of the street parking, Public Works Policy 021, amending on-street parking regulations. Bylaw 82-2024, which is a bylaw to amend bylaw 144-88, being a bylaw to regulate parking in the city of Brantford, Pollard Street. Section 7, parking prohibited at any time. Public Works Policy 021, amending on-street parking regulations. Bylaw 83-2024 is a bylaw to amend bylaw 144-88, being a bylaw to regulate parking in the city of Brantford, Dante Crescent, Schedule 7, parking prohibited at any time. Public Works Policy 021, amending on-street parking regulations. Bylaw 84-2024, which is a bylaw to amend bylaw 144-88, being a bylaw to regulate parking in the city of Brantford, King Street, Schedule 10, parking restricted time limit. Public Works Policy 021, amending on-street parking regulations. Bylaw 85-2024, which is a bylaw to amend bylaw 144-88, a bylaw to regulate parking in the city of Brantford, James Street, Schedule 7, parking prohibited at any time. Public Works Policy 021, amending on-street parking regulations. Bylaw 86, which is a bylaw to amend bylaw 144-88, a bylaw to regulate parking in the city of Brantford, Grand River Avenue, Schedule 7, parking prohibited at any time. Public Works Policy 021, amending on-street parking regulations. Bylaw 87-2024, which is a bylaw to amend bylaw 144-88, being a bylaw to regulate parking in the city of Brantford, Colburn Street. Parking restricted time limit. Public Works Policy 021, amending on-street parking regulations. Bylaw 88-2024, which is a bylaw to amend bylaw 144-88, being a bylaw to regulate parking in the city of Brantford, Colburn Street, Schedule. And that looks like it's the exact same thing. Colburn Street, Schedule 10, parking restricted time limit. Public Works Policy 021, amending on-street parking regulation. Bylaw 89-2024 is a bylaw to amend bylaw 144-88, being a bylaw to regulate parking in the city of Brantford Albion Street, Schedule 26 accessible zone. Public Works Policy 021, amending on-street parking regulations. Bylaw 90-2024 is a bylaw to amend bylaw 144-88, being a bylaw to regulate parking in the city of Brantford William Street, Schedule 26 accessible zone. Public Works Policy 021, amending on-street parking regulation. Bylaw 91-2024 is a bylaw to amend bylaw 37-83, which is a bylaw to regulate traffic in the city of Brantford East Ward, Schedule 8 speed regulations. Public Works Policies 017, guidelines for establishing posted speed limits. Bylaw 92-2024 is a bylaw to appoint citizen and liaison members to various committees and task force. Appointments Committee Report 2024-0604. 93-2024 is a bylaw to appoint citizen and liaison members to various committees and task force and boards. 2024-349, Committee of the Whole Operations Report 2024-0604. Bylaw 94-2024 is a bylaw to repeal and replace bylaw 38-2023, being a bylaw to regulate the planting, maintenance, protection, and preservation of city trees. 2024-20, Committee of the Whole Operations 2024-0604. Bylaw 95-2024 is a bylaw to repeal and replace bylaw 119-2017, being a bylaw to regulate the injury and destruction of private trees and to encourage preservation and replanting of private trees throughout the city. 2024-20, Committee of the Whole Operations Report 2024-0604. Bylaw 96-2024 is a bylaw to amend bylaw 70-2010 to repeal and replace human resources policy, on-call, call-in policy for exempt staff. 2024-395, Committee of the Whole Planning and Administration Report 2024-0611. Bylaw 97, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 70-2010 to repeal and replace corporate policy, city staff travel and expense policy 2024-395, Committee of the Whole Planning and Administration Report 2024-06-11. Bylaw 99, which is a bylaw to amend bylaw 21-2024, being a bylaw to fix fees and charges to be collected by the Corporation of the City of Brantford for 2024 to 2027. 2024-276, Committee of the Whole Planning and Administration Report 2024-0611. Bylaw 100, 2024 is a bylaw to change the name of Longboat Run to Longboat Run East, 2024-320. Committee of the Whole Planning and Administration Report 2024-0611. Bylaw 101-2024, being a bylaw to authorize the Southwest Community Center Phase 2 project and to make provision for the financing of the foregoing 2024-387 Finance Committee Report 2024-0612. Bylaw 102-2024 is a bylaw to amend bylaw 12-2023, being a bylaw to authorize the Southwest Community Center Phase 3 project and to make provision for the financing of the foregoing 2024-387 Finance Committee Report 2024-0612. 103-2024, which is a bylaw to amend bylaw number 160-90, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and location and use of buildings and structures in the city of Brantford. PZ 0924, 2024-185 Planning Committee Report 2024-0613. 104-2024 is a bylaw to amend bylaw 160-90, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the location and use of buildings and structures in the city of Brantford. PZ 0424, 2024-304, Planning Committee Report, 2024-06-20. 105-2024, which is a bylaw to amend bylaw 60-90, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the location and use of buildings and structures in the city of Brantford, PZ 05-2024. 2024-304, Planning Committee Report, 2024-06-20. 106 is a bylaw to amend bylaw 160-90, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and location and use of buildings and structures in the city of Brantford, PZ 0624, 2024-304, Planning Committee Report, 2024-06-20. 107-2024, being a bylaw to approve the sale of lands municipally known as 18 Park Road South in the city of Brantford. 2023-619, Special City Council, November 19th, 2023. City Council, today, June 25th, 2024. 108-2024 is a bylaw to authorize the execution of agreements individually dated and listed on Schedule A here too. Funding agreement for the renewed Canada Community Building Fund 2024 to 2034, 2024-414, City Council, June 25th, 2024. And 109-2024 is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford with respect to the meeting held on June 25th, 2024.
Well, okay, does anybody want any of those bylaws separated for discussion purposes? The answer to that's no. All right. So, Mr. Clerk, would you please take the vote?
The first and second reading of all bylaws carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 9-0. Members voting in favor, Councilors Hunt, McCreary, Celeste, Sullivan, Samuel, Carpenter, Martin, Caputo, and Mayor Davis.
Councilor Samuel, if you please read the resolution for the third and final reading of the bylaws.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Caputo, that all bylaws having received a first and second reading be taken as read a third time and finally passed and signed by the mayor and the clerk. Thank you.
Anybody want any of the bylaws separated? Seeing none, I'll call a vote.
The third reading of all bylaws carries a recorded vote of 8-1. Members voting in favor, Councilors Samuel, Hunt, McCreary, Martin, Celeste, Caputo, Sullivan, Mayor Davis. Members opposed, Councilor Carpenter.
All right, while we're signing the bylaws, go to ward announcements. Councilor Sullivan, you're first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, happy Canada Day. Hope everybody enjoys their safe and summer for them. And come on out to lovely Ward 1 on Canada Day. Come see David Wilcox playing at Lions Park. There'll be all kinds of children's activities. Everything's kicking off around about 12:15. So bring your families out and there'll be some fireworks at the end of the night.
Councilor Caputo.
The villages start on Wednesday. And strongly encourage everyone to get out and visit as many as you can. It's an absolutely phenomenal and great community event. Few places hosting in Ward 2, being the two Polish halls, the Hungarian hall. Great times, great place. Please, everybody, try to get out. It's a huge and wonderful event. Explore and try some new foods. Last week, June 20th, was the Taste of Glenhurst, which was sold out. Great event, and it was actually very, very well received and very hot to sit out there, by the way. Sunday, July the 14th will be a ribbon cutting ceremony to break open Dufferin Park. Councilor Sluss, this is your park. This is the one you and Councilor Utley worked on. As much as I want to be there, I'm going to be away on vacation and I can't believe I'm going to miss that day at that park. So, congratulations. And Brantford Station will be having their movie in the park on the 30th of July. Everyone, have a great and happy Canada Day.
Councillor Sluss.
Mine have been said, so I really have nothing to say other than, this will be our last council meeting until, August. So, everybody, enjoy your month, what you get out of it. There will be probably still some committee meetings. But hopefully they're few and far between and people can get away, get recharged and be back ready for August. Thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you. I don't have anything this month.
Councillor McCreary.
Mayor, thank you. To paraphrase Alice Cooper, school's out for the summer this week, so let's be careful out there on the roads. Kids will be having fun and we don't want any accidents. On a more serious note, Mayor, people in the community are probably aware of the fact that there's a vending machine on Elgin Street that's dispensing drug paraphernalia, aiding and abetting people in the consumption of illicit drugs and furthering their misery. And I should say that we will be having a resolution come forward at council when next we meet to deal with that and to ask the health unit to remove that as it's in use 24/7 when unmanned or unwomaned or unother gendered, as the case may be, and is a disservice to the neighboring community, which has a lot of residences within 40 or 50 feet of that. And it calls into question the governance of that organization. Thank you.
Councillor Hunt.
I, want to wish everybody a good month off. I know I certainly feel like I need it. Ward wise, tomorrow at the Bramley Community Center, there is a neighborhood meeting regarding the block plans for north of Powerline Road, the north of Powerline Road East block plans. So it's actually all of the developers along that stretch. And on the 9th of July at Bridle Path Park on Palomino Drive, it's Hot Summer Nights. And that's the Ward 4 event. Thank you.
Well, I don't think we have anybody left to my. So I alternate. No, so you're it. Last.
Last but certainly not least. Okay, so the Eagle Place Community Association would like me to mention that they're very excited to be having a storybook walk in partnership with the Brantford Public Library in July, as well as their very first front yard garden contest. Another exciting thing that they wanted me to mention is that the beautiful mosaics that were previously hidden away in River Green Park have been moved over to a better resting place in Jim Walsh Rest Area. And so make sure you drive by and see how beautiful they look in the sun. Also, July 2nd is the Tootla Park Hot Summer Nights. So make sure you come out to that in the evening. And July 6th will be the Unbirthday Party by Friends for Kindness from 1 to 4 at Mohawk Park, and everybody's welcome there. And lastly, I wanted to mention that there'll be an event, Chai with a Cop, and that'll be on Saturday, July 6th as well, from 12 to 3 at Chihuahua of London at 175 Linden Road. So come out and have some conversations with members of the Brantford Police Services. And I just wanted to also say happy Canada Day and look forward to seeing everyone at Lions Park. Thanks.
I guess that leaves me as I sign the bylaws. So what I certainly want to wish everybody a well justified break, but I'll see what I can do through July to keep you all very busy. But most importantly, I want to say to staff, there've been a lot of initiatives that have been we've addressed through the spring and in the fall, and they also very much need a break as well. And I wish to staff, city staff, that they have an excellent July break, many of which has been much earned by them. So with that,